Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Tyler. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Good, sir. Good to be back.
It's good to have you back. We're going to be talking about the newest AoS 4 news, building that hype train. Hype. Let the hype continue. I continue to be very excited about everything I'm seeing, with one exception, as we'll talk about tonight, but we'll get into it. And we're going to do a little 3.0 look back because you were at a 3.0, you were at a tournament this last weekend, along with Tom and Paul Castro and some other people. And my question is, Tyler, is that your last 3.0 tournament probably?
No, I've got Colorado Clan Carnage. He's telling Vince about the E. That touched him wrong. Getting distracted already by the comments. Yeah, May 4th and 5th, Colorado Clan Carnage, Shannon with Weekend Decadent YouTube channel. I think I got all my plugs in there. He's hosting a team event. Nice. So looking forward to that one. Yeah, good time. Went out to it last year. But yeah, it was amazing time. We'll talk, I'm sure, in hobby.
We'll talk a little about it, in some hobby time. Yeah. But the reality is, I'm done.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm done with 3.0. After reading this much stuff about 4.0, I'll tell you, Tyler, my desire to play current edition of AoS, zero. Tank is on empty.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be playing games. I'll just play the old world, or once we get enough 4.0 together, that's what I'm playing. Like, give me the PDFs. Let's go. Release the PDFs. You cowards. Give it to us. Give it to us now.
I've got some friends who have been playing 3.0 with what we know about 4th edition and having a good time with it. You know, like using the new commands, and I mean,
yeah, sure.
could be doing things completely wrong or, you know, completely out of whack, but yeah, having a good time apparently. So
absolutely.
Why is it dark? We can't see the propaganda behind me. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be, Dylan. We've had enough of that. Yeah, too many light shows. Too many shows.
We'll get that pink and blue lighting behind you there, Tyler. we'll all set it up. I'm going to change my fluorescence so they're all pink and blue in the office. At any rate, before we get into all that, of course, the other news, the news before the news. What do we got?
Yeah.
Well,
that's
we have
my
dogs
job, right?
incoming. I can hear that. I can hear the chaos coming. So we'll hold off a second while this starts. Hey.
Hello.
Have arrived.
Maybe don't bark at me. Come here.
She doesn't know how not to bark. Lyra, hop up.
The real stars of the show
Here's your
are here.
co-host. This is Lyra. Lyra and Tyler are gonna go ahead and host the rest of the event. This is what she does to Vince. I call it cobbing, like you're going across a corn cob. It's so weird. She's so weird. Sorry.
Perfectly healthy behavior.
She's a better co-host already than Tom. I mean, he's never once tried to nibble on my beard, and I really feel that that's a problem.
Right.
But yeah.
Probably never remotely showed that level of affection. Probably said he never loves you.
Oh, he's told me he loves me, yes. Like, okay. I've said it to him, too.
Accidentally one time.
Yes, accidentally one time.
I was in the room, and I was saying goodbye to Vince, and I said, bye, I love you, and he said, I love you, and Tom went, wow, I love you too, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Tom was, like, on the phone or on the show or something. I can't remember what it was, but, yeah, it's been entertaining. Hi, Tyler.
Hi.
Yes,
good
hit like and subscribe.
That's right. Everybody hit like for the dogs. We got our dog visit in. One of them that doesn't know how to be quiet.
No, Aspen has no chill. Aspen's my dog, so she has no chill. Lyra, on the other hand, I can't throw this chair away. This chair is ancient. It's like 30 years old. And every time I tried to sneak it out of your office once when you were traveling for work. That's so creepy. Why do you let her do that? And Vince brought it out of the garage where I had put it near the trash bin, and he was like, that's Lyra's chair. She has to have a seat. You can't get rid of her chair. But it is falling apart. It's tipping sideways. The front is all jacked up.
She doesn't care.
She doesn't care. No.
Oblivious.
She rolls in mulch.
Yeah, exactly.
And dead things in the yard. So, anyway.
All right, very good.
Taking them out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good to see ya.
Come on.
All right.
Got to hang out with Charlie. Yeah, Charlie. Got to hang out with Charlie over the weekend.
Yeah.
She's a sweet girl.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. They got their dog from the same place we get our dogs. So there you go.
Yeah.
Dogs. At any rate, there you go. Hit like if you haven't already for the dogs. It's fun. But let's get into some news. We've got
Yeah,
a
man.
rumor engine.
Little rumor engine. Not sure. I feel like parts of this look familiar. But I was thinking about it earlier. I couldn't quite place it. You got any? You got any guesses? I mean, I was
It
getting
looks like an
maybe a
elvish
little-
thing.
Yeah, kind of a elvish, maybe a stormcast vibe.
Sure.
But
I
yeah.
don't know. Feels pretty Lumineth-y to me. Is my honest answer.
Yeah, little thing on the left there.
Yep. So okay.
That makes
Cool.
sense.
I mean, we have gone too long without new Lumineth models, so it's about time.
Absolutely. New Reclusian. So
Yeah.
Ruination Chamber opens up.
Boom. This guy, Axeman, is obviously now. This is the only picture I could actually download off of the site because the other ones he has his little buddy, like he has a
Yeah.
little friend who comes with him as well. His little assistant. But yeah, man, what you think of this guy?
Love it. Yep, that paint scheme on the armor is looking pretty sweet. They
Yeah.
got kind of like, it's darker. Kind of got some black going on there. It's like some black iron. Yeah, looks quite amazing. I love the little dudes that go with them. Yeah, so I guess this is our paladin unit, our three person. There's we got a woman in there. You can tell by the breastplate, by the armor design. That's cool to see. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a squad of 3. So I'm excited. Oh, I'll spill the beans in hobby, but I found out further evidence that you are in fact evil. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
In relation to painting, quote unquote evil.
I see.
Quotes are
I
very
see.
important there. But yeah.
Fair enough.
No, I love it. I love it, man. What do you think?
I think this guy's great. Part of the challenge here is we retired all of these Stormcast sculpts, and again, we got into it a little while back, and I'm not going to re-litigate that entire thing. But when they release new great sculpts like this, it's really awesome. It just makes me so sad that they didn't do the obvious thing again and say like, hey, if these are the new 3-man models, you're whatever from the previous chamber we just retired that was only 6 years old could just be these guys. They have robes. These guys got cloaks. It's all fine. Everybody's good. Just they're this guy now. They're this guy. This is the new rules. The new rules are this, and these 3 models are all this guy, right?
Yep.
Depending on which generation of armor you have. And you might think that sounds insane, but like I could play attack marine, right? Like it's like let's take the 40k equivalent. I could play a tactical marine, which is sort of basic space marine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he could be in anything from like Mark 3 to Mark 10 armor. 7 different variants. And some of those look pretty wildly different. Okay. I mean, they're identifiably space marines, but there's notable differences. And just all of them are attack marines. Right? It's just which particular generation of armor does this guy have? Right? And like, so what? Who cares?
Yeah.
I don't need different rules for it. This is my squad all done up in Mark 6 armor because that's the one I like. It's the one I think is cool. Right? And that's my whole army. And like nobody would bat an eyelash.
Yeah, totally.
So why do we not have like, this is your heavy paladin unit, right? And so it's these dudes and it's the, whatever, evocators and. Sure.
Oh, you're saying the studio lean into this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
not just us as a community, but okay, yeah.
Not just us. I mean, like, I think we can't have. I know Hades. I know you care, and I'm sorry, but like, but I do think it's a problem. You can't have different individual rules for 10 different things that fill the exact same role. Like, we can't have 5 units of heavy paladin dudes. They're gonna make new models, so just make it like marks on armor. This is the new updated thing, and like that's their heavy armor. At least then people have license to play the figs. Sure, they can proxy them now, but it makes it more official. And I know it's not perfect. I know it still isn't having the unique rules you might want. But again, your Mark 6 armor doesn't have special rules. Your Mark 7 armor isn't different than your Mark 9. Theoretically, there are differences in the world between them, right? But, like I want it to be, I want people to feel licensed to play their stuff. And this unit, which looks awesome and amazing, by the way. Like, I really do love this model. just further reignited that belief in me that they made such a wrong, terrible choice by not just saying all these dudes are this guy.
Yeah. Totally.
Excuse me. So, there you go.
Yeah.
Cinderfall
Enjoyed
Gaming
you
says,
guys.
heck, the new Sternguard veteran unit actually mixes all of the marks of armor together to show the age of veterans. Yeah, exactly. It's like you got different looking armors on different looking dudes in one unit. It's exactly the same thing. When's the last time they got reforged? Do they have the new hotness? Oh, this dude survived for a while. He's still in the old armor, right? He hasn't been sent back up to Aesir for a long time. Great, cool. Great. Awesome. A+.
Rule of core wargaming color scheme almost looks like the mythical color scheme I used to talk about. Yeah, you're not wrong. We'll get into that in hobby. All right. So, Paul Castro, I did. You're a saint and an a-hole at the same time. I don't know how you managed to pull it off, but you do it. Love you, my friends. So, cool. We good on these lovely new Stormcast?
Yeah. Want to see
All right.
more. I mean, look, ultimately, Tyler, there's only one problem with this sculpt.
Yeah.
And that's that it's not more Skaven. Like, I've seen...
Clearly.
We've gotten plenty of Stormcasts in the past couple years. Show dem rat boys. Okay? Show them. Stop it.
Sure. We'll get one next week.
That's too long.
Alternating weeks. You don't
be-
get every week.
We should be every week. We should be every day. And then they release the book, and then the army, and then the figs. Let's go. Now. Tomorrow. I gotta start painting. All right. Next up.
Okay. Yep. So Sunday preview last Sunday, Dark Oath Marauder. We've got the Dark Oath army set coming out
Yep.
with a bunch of new Marauders, the new Marauder Cav, some sweet looking beast thing that I don't know what it's called, but looks amazing. And they're releasing the Battle Tome, which is not going to last too long, but hopefully there'll be a lot of overlap in the third edition to fourth edition rules here. I can't remember what you thought about these models. I think they look pretty sweet to me. They're
fine.
not really my cup of tea.
Yep.
But I've got a friend who's excited about the full-on Conan army. He's getting 2 of these boxes. So
I'll kind of scroll around the page here for people. My short answer is cool beans. Like, I really don't like the main guy on horse. I really don't. He just something about him just really bothers me. The actual barbarians they're fine. They're fine. It's just not my particular speed in this scale.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But like the motion, the design, I know this is going to land for some people, and I'm excited for those people. Like, they're certainly amazing and good quality sculpts. They're just not my particular cup of tea. But they're great. They're great. Like, it's good, just not good for me. So, that's all. I've always, and that's, as I've said for years and years and years, the thing in Chaos that appeals to me was never the half-naked Viking Conan knockoff dudes. It was the Wall of Steel, Chaos Warriors, Chaos Knights, Chosen, Chaos Lords. Like, I love that look, right?
Sure.
That's, picking up Hero Quest back in the day, I looked at that Chaos Warrior and I was like, this dude is cool, right? And that's I am's what I am. But there's nothing wrong with him. So, cool. Need non-masked horse head options. I thought there was a horse head that wasn't masked. I know he has a couple different heads, and I know there's 2 horse heads. I thought one of them didn't have a mask, but maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe one of them just doesn't have the big horn. So,
yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it looks like there's quite a bit of customization options. They did an article about that as well, so that's good to see. And as usual, we won't cover the rules until we just do the full battle tome. So they had an article on the rules, but wait on that. And bud, anything else for the initial news?
Well, there's one more. There was also some old world sculpts releasing. This is worth calling out. In that I think one of the greatest models that GW has released in many years will be releasing as part of this tranche of old world stuff, as well as a bunch of old goofy models they're re-releasing. Oh my god. Like the Bone Giant being re-released is truly comical to me. But in this is Lady Elise Duchard, which is this model right here, the sorceress on the unicorn. I obviously have a Bretonnian army. And I just think this is one of the most beautiful things that they have done in a long time. This is
Yeah.
gorgeous. It's so much negative space, so much just subtle volumes. It's really, really, really beautiful. And I love it. And yeah, I think this is just like awesome. And I was very excited to see it finally being released. So super cool.
Have you painted one, or are you going to?
I would very much like to. I have not,
Yeah.
but I would very much like
Okay.
to.
Very good.
So, because I think she rules.
Yeah.
I definitely want one for my army. That's what I'll say.
Mhm.
I enjoy playing my Bretonians, not as much as my Tomb Kings. It's more fun to just like ignore half the game's rules when you're playing the old world, and that's what Tomb Kings
Sure.
give you.
Yeah.
But this thing is just beautiful. So yeah, there you go. That's all.
Yeah. I felt bad about my boring comments a few shows back because obviously we never want to. I mean, I think hopefully most everybody knows that's a joke. I haven't played it. I have no no means of actually judging this game.
Oh, you're
but
good. I don't think
you
anybody
never,
took offense. Yeah.
you never want to yuck. We don't want to do that.
No,
'cause
we're never going to yuck somebody else's yum. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I did see a beautiful army of Bretonians at Rob's. I think Rob did an event over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, somebody had a fantastic Bretonian army, and I feel like I saw this model in one of the photos, as well as the new dude lower here, the Bretonian Lord on Pegasus. So yeah, it looked awesome.
Yep.
I do love a lot of these sculpts, these Bretonian sculpts, including some of the older ones, man. Like the men at arms look pretty sweet still.
Oh sure, they're fine. They're very they look good when all together. Individually, when you look at them,
Yeah.
they're kind of derpy, but they actually look really great as a ranked unit.
Yeah.
I agree with Average Joe. Said once again, I wish we knew who painted this model so they could get the credit where credit is due. Whoever painted this did an amazing job. I absolutely agree. For working basically in about that much of the they had that much tonal range to work in, and yet it's all there. It's gorgeous. I love it when somebody works in a very, very, very limited color palette. Like most of this model's white, right?
Right.
But it's just like exploring these very subtle differences between everything.
Yeah.
It's really great. So, anyways,
Good on you, Kevin. Appreciate it.
absolutely, Team Tyler forever. All right, cool. That's our news. Let's go to some pick of the week. Tyler, what do you got for everybody?
No AOS pick. Leaning into the Tom de-evolution, as we were talking about pre-show. Just can't be bothered apparently. So
Tyler, I'd just like to point out that this slide from like 3 to 6 picks to like whatever. I mean,
yeah. I hope there's a bottom at some point here.
We'll find out, I guess. I mean, Tom's scraping it pretty close. You're gonna have company down there.
So this is probably not necessary, but just in case there's any soul listening to this who has not started watching X-Men 97, like by all means, start immediately. It's phenomenal. If you watch the cartoon, even if you didn't watch the cartoon, but you enjoy superhero comics, it's just amazing.
Really, all you need is a vague awareness of X-Men in the 90s. You don't really need to have any background.
Right.
It's fine. It's not like it. I mean, like, yes, it continues on from that story, but it doesn't have like threads that are super relevant. No, I agree. X-Men 97 is fantastic, and to be clear, the original X-Men animated series was basically garbage. It was schlock for children that was mostly bad. It was people failing to use their powers in even a commonsensical way. Okay, like it was just really, most episodes were really, really bad. There's a couple real standouts, but for the most part, it was pretty bad. Like the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Okay.
Sure. I don't know about you. I was a normie child. I don't know. You were some non-normies weirdo. That's fine. I loved it personally. Vince, speaking for myself.
I didn't say I didn't watch it. I watched it. I'm just like I went back and watched it now. Recently,
okay. No, that's fair.
And was like, wow, this is really bad.
It's really bad.
I remember at the time thinking, that's stupid. Why don't they do this thing or this thing or this thing? Okay, because I'd been an avid reader of the X-Men since the mid '80s. But the like Claremont's run was genius, top to bottom. Okay, when Chris Claremont started his run, he had an arc story that he had planned to have Magneto take over the X-Men by episode and become a good guy of sorts by issue 300. That's how far he planned into the future.
Wow.
300 issues. That's a hell of a plan.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, like, Claremont really knew what he was doing. I stand behind him as, like, sort of the person who had the greatest singular vision of what the X-Men were about. And I don't think we'd have anything that we care about with the X-Men today if it wasn't for him. But this new show really gets it right because it's like, it remembered what the X-Men are actually all about, which is just a bunch of people sitting around in emotional and relationship entanglements, having arguments, fighting with each other, talking about who's in love with who, getting in very basic arguments about life and taking everything like dramatically seriously. It is a soap opera where people shoot laser beams out of their eyes. That's why it's good. That's what Claremont's X-Men always was when it was at its best. It was just like General Hospital plus laser beam eyes. You got magic. Okay. So that's it. There you go.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. My Facebook algorithm right now is full of X-Men related content.
Sure.
Seeing a bunch of Jim Lee's artwork from that time frame, early 90s.
Yeah.
Just it's like, oh man, we had it so good. Like it was, it's just amazing. So, somebody mentioned we should probably shout this out. Adepticon 2025. We got some big news.
Oh yeah, I guess I didn't put that in the news. That really should have been in there. But I've got, it's okay. Let me do it as my picks of the week because here we go. I got 3. I'm picking up your slack.
That's good.
So pick of the week number 1, I'll add that to it, is Adepticon 2025 being in the Baird Center in Milwaukee. Check out adepticon.com. Obviously, they've got the details there and everything about it. So I am very excited for the move, personally. The Renaissance was not big enough to hold this event anymore. It just wasn't. I like the Renaissance. I thought it was a nice hotel. But I hated that there was nowhere to walk for food, all of that kind of stuff. Whereas, Nova, moving to that hotel in downtown DC, we have all these great places, amazing places to walk for food. We walked to a restaurant last year. It's a bit of a hike, but it was worth it. Maybe like a mile or so from the convention center for Nova. And it's the best meal I've ever had in my life. Like, just bar none. I mean, incredible. Okay. And that's at Maidan in DC, if anybody's curious. Maydan. It is an incredible restaurant. Go check it out. But anyways, so I'm very happy with the move. Easy access to restaurants, nice location, lots of space. Should be great. So that's number 1. My pick number 2 is going to be, if you want to see some more deep dive and thoughts on some of the articles we're going to talk about today in the news, to go check out our good buddy Rob, the Honest Wargamer, who's been doing some killer coverage of each individual article. He had a really nice talk through, I thought, today of the combat stuff, like the sort of implications of the combat article that we'll talk about here later today. I just thought it was really nicely explained, and it's full of cow puns, which are funny, and it's funny when Rob laughs at his own jokes. It does make me laugh very much. So that's my pick number 2. Pick number 3. Tyler, I don't know if you noticed, but our brethren over in 40K this weekend, they had a bit of a controversy pop up. Did you happen to turn on the internet this weekend?
I turned on Keith Lee's internet. Thank you very much. I saw somebody refer to I don't know if you know who Keith Lee is, but that was my favorite descriptor of the internet. Anyway, that's a little thing from TikTok. I did hear about that. Crazy.
Yeah. Like we won't go into it in detail here because it's not our game. Yeah. But like we don't generally talk about 40K. But I will say, man, I was there for it. I was there for the tea. Okay? Watching thread after thread after thread and Twitter thing just pop up and like perfectly reasonable people get responded to by lunatics constantly was amazing. All right. Yeah. So, look, all I can say is after watching that this weekend is, boy, I'm glad I play AoS. If you ever needed a reason to come over here, AoS, we had some controversy with when some models got discontinued, but that felt like a source of righteous anger. This is woof. And it wasn't half as much as this. at any rate, that leads to my third pick of the week, which is very cool friend of the show, Pleasant Kenobi, who's obviously is people probably know if you know him from his channel on Magic the Gathering. Another Vince in the world, which is always great to see. He has a new wargaming podcast. And so I thought we'd shout it out. I linked him down in the description. And his first episode, he has Hellstorm Mikey on. And they talk about this controversy in great detail. So go check it out.
I didn't pick up the origination of this. Was this like an article that they released talking about female custodes or custodes, however you say that, or was it like what was the origination of all this?
The origination was part of the new, what do they call them? They don't call them battle tomes.
Codexes.
Codexes. Okay, there you go. In their new codex, there is the sort of, they have the narratives and story in the books, of course, right? One of the sort of main opening stories is from the point of view of a custode who is female. That's pretty much it. And so then that raised a lot of questions instantly, and Warhammer Twitter basically responded and said, no, there have always been female custodes. And that was, and then just off to the races we went. That was it. So that was it. It shot off. It popped. So,
Goodness.
it was, I'm not going to lie. I doom scrolled that because I was addicted to it. I couldn't help myself. I was traveling some. Okay. Like I had to travel for work. So, you spend a lot of time in airports, right? You're just bored. And I was just like, plenty to read here. So at any rate, go check out Pleasant Kenobi. He and Hellstorm Mikey have a great conversation on it. It's really good, and Kenobi's a good dude. We're gonna have him hopefully on the show here sometime.
Nice.
Talk about some wargaming because he's a Warhammer enthusiast.
Okay. Is he into AoS and all? Do you know?
I guess we'll find out. If not, we're gonna bring him over.
Absolutely.
So there we go. Okay. I agree, Peppo. The memes have been great. It's the memes have been very funny. This has been a great time for meme harvesting. All right. Very good. So with that silliness out of the way, let's turn to some hobby time. Tyler, you were at a tournament this last weekend. I assume that was most of your hobby time. How'd it go?
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. So first time that Kentucky had a GT, as far as I know. It was called Trash Clash in the Bluegrass. Takes the cake for the best name, certainly, of any event that I've been to this year. Sorry to everybody else, but that's an amazing name. Tom did really well. Tom went 4-1. He brought his fleshy to courts. I had some rough ones. 4 out of 5 games were as close as things get. Ended up 2-2-1. So not the best, but it's fine. It happens.
What were you playing? Your Soul Blight?
Soul Blight, yeah. Talk about the war. Talk about the Wargog, Anthony. Oh, you're like this little devil on my shoulder, and the angel. I don't know how you pull it off. So, yeah, if I see another Wargog, it'll be too soon, man. I mean, I don't think I'm at the stage of burning Wargogs, but my God.
GW did that for you.
Oh, okay, good. All right, excellent. Yeah, had quite a moment in game 1 where Manfred went in to kill a Wargog who had 5 wounds left, did 16 damage, and my opponent kindly rolled 13 4-up wards.
Pretty good.
To
it's a good roll.
leave him alive on 2 wounds. And then he's like, screw it. Let's go for it. Let's start staring in his turn. And Manfred took 11 wounds without him rolling a single 1 or 2, which is you take d6 mortal wounds, as you probably know, whenever you roll a 1 or 2 on the Wargog.
Yeah.
And so bye-bye Manfred. And then he moved up the Wargog, and he got the double, and he's like, let's first time work. Let's do this again. Let's run it back. Did the exact same thing to Vordry. 16 wounds, full health, Ward Dry. Never rolled a single 1 or 2. Bye bye, Ward Dry, and my hopes and dreams of doing well at this tournament.
As that little dude's just Homelandered 700 points of your army right off the table.
Let's see, 840. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
But
yeah, sure.
I mean, who's counting at that? I mean, yeah, no, you're not wrong. Manfred, whatever happens to Manfred, he deserves it. I can attest to that. So, yeah, that. I was doing my best to keep it. Man, it's hard sometimes to keep the salt in check. It's really hard. I mean, it's little toys, right? You've been doing this for how long? And you'd think I could have, borrow some of that Haywo Zen. Yeah, no, Gareth, you're 100% right. Clearly a skill issue. Absolutely. Clearly. That's all of my friends said as well. So anyway, I'll shut up about this. But yeah, great games. The grand strategy is the Achilles heel of Soulblight. Thank God. I had 2 games that could not keep. Turns out, Vince, that teleporting in the hero phase, any hero phase, that's not good enough to keep your Vampire Lord alive. That's not quite enough cheating. Like one time.
You gotta cheat harder.
Gotta cheat harder. I could not get away from the 36-inch spell portal with Infernal Gateway going through it. Lost a game, came down to that at the very end. It was on Nexus Collapse. I would have won that by 1 point. Yeah, but they need that Achilles heel. Otherwise, they'd be pretty ridiculous right now. They're already really strong. Anyway, yeah, amazing event.
I really truly hate Spell Portal. That's the one. Like the last time I played Bone Splitters at a tournament, I had my Stormcast army, and I had a pretty small army. I had Krondus in there. So, the Wargog's like a legitimately scary thing to me, right? Because I don't have a lot of mortal wound protection. I don't want him to stare off my big dragon. And I played around those things pretty aggressively until I could staying way back until I could just absolutely ram jam the entire unit and pile in and eat that little moron. Right. But they're tough, yeah, because if the dice break against you on the ward, it's just beans, right?
Yeah.
So
another friend went C3PO on me. He said, well, he had the percentage wrong, so not quite C3PO, but 1.38% chance of what happening.
Pretty good.
The number of times that he rolled the 3 up, yeah. So. Yeah, shout out to Rick in the chat. I had a fantastic game against Rick with the Sylvaneth, beautiful Sylvaneth army. Had a lot of fun, Rick. Thank you for the amazing game. Yeah, it was an absolute blast. Shout out to Clay and company. They did an awesome job with the event. A lot of fun, kept it. They had little sayings, every time they were making announcements. Like 15 minutes left or whatever. So kept it a light mood. It was a blast. Nice. Empire of Corpses cast. Yeah, man. Empire of Corpses is great unless you cannot roll a 3 up or 4 up. That's another skill issue. So
you gotta roll harder, Tyler. That's the problem. Where you put enough roll on it, where you just you can't just you can't just give it some weak roll. You gotta get the sauce on there.
I've given that lecture a lot, Vince. You're not wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, my hobby time was not full of that, but I am painting up this lady. She's actually almost done, so this is going to be unbelievably impossible to see. Oh. There you go. This is the what's her name?
Beautiful.
The Sekakar. You'll notice she doesn't have her snake. That's because I'm just painting her up to be a vampire who is somebody who uses magic that works with the dead, a wizard who specializes in that sort of thing. And I'm painting her up for not to use as a Warhammer figure. I mean, maybe I'll use her as a vampire lord or something. She's on the appropriate base, but no, she's being painted up for a different game. Yeah.
Okay.
A different game that I'm painting this figure for. Yeah. That's all I'll say.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see what we can go from there.
Interesting. All right. Let's see. Best Coast pairings.
So.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to see the photos. I'm sure it'll be gorgeous.
That's been my hobby time. Working on
Very
this
nice.
very fun lady. She's a really cool sculpt, and I'd wanted to paint her since I
Yeah.
first saw her. So absolutely.
I think I saw Richard
Um,
Gray did her for Golden Demon.
Yeah, had her in his as his like AOS single. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't think he used the snake either. I think he just had the model.
Uh,
Apparently, we all don't like the snake. We're all getting rid of that snake.
So I do need to cover a couple of things here. Connor, yeah, man, I'll be at the 27th Games Explosion, AOS, Springdale, Arkansas. Looking forward to it. A lot of names didn't recognize, so Travis and I are going to make it out. So you know this guy Anthony Polcastro? You heard of him?
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's something else, isn't he?
Great
So I found out some key information over the weekend. This event that I was so excited, and I'm still excited to do with you. I've known you for what feels like a very long time, and we've
Yeah.
never played a game of Warhammer together,
No,
which we've talked a lot about.
like I mean, we've
So we're
been
gonna-
at Warhammer tournaments to
Yeah,
be clear,
yeah.
and many times, and hung out and stuff like that. But we've never played either on the same side or opposite sides of the table.
Exactly. And so it's going to be happening at Holy Havoc, finally getting out to the wonderful Steve Herner and his events.
Yeah.
And, well, you failed to mention that in order for our team to be eligible for awards, hobby awards, you have to paint your army.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that was some key information that never made it into my ear holes.
I don't see a problem.
Yeah. Well, Tom and Polcastro were kind enough to let me know that. So, good work by you.
I just assumed you read the
you
pack.
are sure. you you are further evidence, quote unquote, evil. So I'm apparently locked in at this point.
Mhm.
This is happening, and further evidence of it. We got into discussion with Polcastro over wherever we were, and he was like, "Yeah, I got a bunch of airbrushes that you can borrow." Like, all right, cool, man. Yeah, I can learn how to airbrush. That sounds good. And we're in Tom's basement, and I'm entering, and he's like, "Here, give me your delivery address." I'm entering my address, and the SOB dude, you know what I'm about to say, right? He like bought me everything for an airbrush, and it showed up today, and it was like a huge box. I don't even know how. There's like an air compressor, and
Yeah,
there's
man, it's time to get priming,
there's
time to get
metal.
base coating. Let's go.
Oh my
Gonna
god,
change
it's
your life.
ridiculous. So yeah, I need to get different friends. I think that's that you get. They're my friends are way too good at manipulation and guilt and subterfuge. And all right, we can move on. But yeah, I figured you
No,
needed
that's
to know that.
fine. I'm just glad we're finally getting you painting. It was
Yeah.
going to come to you eventually, and frankly, I'm excited about it. Look, you've got new Ruination Stormcast coming. What more could you want in your life, Tyler? This is great. This is great. You will literally just be playing the box set. You do the Stormcast. I'm doing some Skaven. We've taken the Versus box set. We flipped the script. We're friends now. We're friends now.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Now,
So-
Vince. Well, yeah, Anthony, we got Bryce. I think I can rope Bryce. Maybe line. We can rope in some locals. Yeah.
I'm sure you'll.
Well.
It's not hard.
Yeah.
You put some thinned paint in, you pull down the trigger, you overspray like crazy and mess some stuff up. Then you learn, and then you clean out your airbrush and you do it again, and eventually you figure it out. It's all right. You'll make some mistakes.
Nice.
Don't let that
Nice
stuff
sexting. She also got her first airbrush here, and start loving it. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. All right. So, with that,
Yeah.
Tyler, are you ready to turn to the big AoS 4 news?
I mean, I feel like we've been talking forever. We're only 40. We're not doing too bad. 40
Yeah,
minutes.
we're doing great.
Doing good. All right.
I'm sure we will make a lot of hay out of this. All right.
I'm being long-winded. We're still okay. It's a good sign.
You're good. Let's turn to our newest. Oops. Okay. Let's turn to our now new recurring segment for the next several months, which is going to be most of the shows, which is just talking about AOS news. I mean, this is what it is.
Yeah.
How battle traits and battle formations shape your army and hashtag new AOS. You know, I looked for that hashtag, not catching on as much as you'd hope. I was not really trending. At any rate, let's get into it. So, the way you build your armies has changed, and those changes can affect everything else. Blah blah blah. Battle traits and battle formations. Okay, cool. Stormcast people, there they are. Dragons, got it. Lord Bastion Carthalos, best, most awesome dude in the Stormcast faction. Chad amongst Chads. All right. So, battle traits are a series of widespread abilities unique to your army. Some of these will feel similar to existing army rules, but all have been tightened up and codified to work with a new ability system, where everything's an ability. And as we'll see, we finally got some actual real abilities here in these articles, like the baseline abilities upon which everything else rests. So, thank you. I don't know why that wasn't Article 1. Here's move, shoot, charge, and fight.
Right.
Right, okay. But anyways, great. So, for instance, Stormcast Eternals have 4 different battle trait abilities that apply to the army as a whole. While heroic actions are gone. So, there's our first confirmation. We suspected as much. And I'm fine with it. I'm super fine with it. Okay. Their finest hour continues to power up Stormcast Eternals for a turn at a time. So now their finest hour, once per turn, army, your hero phase, declare. Pick a friendly Stormcast Eternals unit that has not used this ability this battle to use this ability. Effect for the rest of the turn, add 1 to wound rolls for that unit's combat attacks and 1 to save rolls for that unit. As we know from reading ahead into the other article, there's not much save bonus in the game anymore. They talked about how much they've gutted that out. So they talked about how basically a couple of armies that I suspect are meant to be heavily armored. So, you know, you've probably got something similar on, like, I don't know, like Chaos Warrior dudes or something like that, right? Like other people who are sort of like, they're the heavy armor people. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
A couple of them probably have some +1 to save. And they said they got rid of the rest. Good. No more save stacking. I love that they specifically said save stacking. Like, use the real terms for it. Right?
Yeah.
We know. We all know. So, and then this is great. No longer restricted to heroes. Now Stormcast themselves are the ones who have their finest hour. The best day ever. Best day ever. Now a Stormcast ability. Tyler, what do you think about this right here? What are you feeling?
It feels right. I mean, if there were an army that should be, well, I'm a little unclear exactly from that article today. We'll get into it, how it's going to work, what we're looking at. But yeah, in general, this certainly makes sense to me. That Stormcast would be right. If you're going to have an army that can generally stay on a 3-up save, it's going to be Stormcast. They should be not weak to Rend. They should be weak to what's now called mortal damage, which is generally what they've always been weak to, right?
Exactly.
And so, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think if Stormcast are running around most of the time and, like, just sort of by default they have a 3-up save, like, if that's, unless they get hit by, like, a Mega Rend model, you know?
Yeah.
They have a 3-up save. Good. Great. A+. Like, I'm happy about that. That's fine, because they should be elite, and that's how it should work. And then mortal damage should basically melt their faces right off, right? That's
right.
That's what happens. So, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, I want them to be tanky. They're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited about when we get to the next article, we'll see Vindictors as well, and those look. I really like how that's looking.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. All right, then we got Scions of the Storm, which is sort of 2 abilities here. You have 1 to put them up in reserve and 1 to bring them down. Okay, so that's all this is. One of them's in the deployment phase. If there are more friendly Stormcast Eternal units on the battlefield than there are set up in reserve, pick a friendly Stormcast Eternals unit that has not been deployed. And then, in fact, set up that unit in reserve in the Celestial Realm. It has now been deployed. And then in the game, in your movement phase, you pick a friendly Stormcast Eternals unit that is in the Celestial Realm. Set up that unit anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Cool. You will do this before the enemy does any of their abilities, other than reactions, obviously. That's important to say. Because remember, in every phase, the active player does all of their abilities first. So you will do your moves and your Scions of the Storm and bring your people down. And then the opponent will react. They'll do their redeploy or whatever else they happen to have. Right? Because that's their actions.
So remind me, when does this happen? When do we do abilities in the sequencing?
In every phase, the active player does all their abilities that they want in any order that they want. Okay. Every time I do one, I declare it. If there's reactions, those happen. All declare steps happen. If there's a reaction, those happen. And then once the reaction's resolved, the effect of the original declared ability resolves. I just go in order.
Okay. So previously, of course, the Signs of the Storm unit that has set up that unit with the battlefield. Yeah, we would do that at the end of our movement phase.
Yep.
So when it just says your movement phase. Again, they've probably already answered this, and I'm forgetting an earlier article, and I'm just forgetting. So is this meaning that we're doing this at a specific time in the movement phase?
Nope, there are no more subsections or components or anything. It's your movement phase, so you could move a guy and then drop a thing and then move a guy and then drop a thing and so on. You use all of your abilities however you want. The only thing that has some differentiation to there is in combat, how that works.
Yeah.
Yep.
Alrighty.
So remember, the important part to understand is that all of the enemies' abilities, right? The non-active players' abilities are going to happen after you do all of your abilities, as long as they're not a reaction, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, you're going to drop your people down, and then they can just redeploy away from you, right? Like that, because redeploy isn't in any way tied to like somebody moving within. It's not a reactive ability. It's just a thing you can do. Right. So they do have that capability. Now, obviously, it doesn't say anything in here about restricting movement after they're set up. Okay. My guess is this probably has like keywords like move or something like that, because you can never use more than one move ability. That could be a way it goes. Maybe we just got a little cut of it that doesn't have the little keywords.
Yeah.
Or it could be that like if a unit's set up, it can never move. That could just be in the core rules. Like there's lots of ways that but I'm sure it's part of it. I do not think you can move after you set.
Can't Vanguard wing it?
Yeah, he can't Vanguard wing it, I'm sure.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah. Gareth said the question is whether or not you can move after setting up. I'm just believing the answer is no, because come on now. We've learned this lesson like 20 times. There's no reason. There's no way we're going into the new edition like, yeah, just drop your whole army down and then march it forward. Like, no. We did this. We fixed it like 7 times already. We've learned our lesson. Okay, so I'm sure it's just either it's a generic rule or in the actual book, Scions of the Storm has like the move keyword, in which case you couldn't both use the move ability and this ability, because you can only use one ability of a certain keyword in a phase. So it's one of the two. Have we learned that lesson, Vince? Have we? I hope so, Stuart. I really do. I believe we have. Matt Rose and his team are smart people. I'm sure there'll be some misses here or there, but this one feels a little bit obvious. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll be the case. Not on. I think it's just like in the combat phase, they have to sequence things in a particular order because of the way fighting and pre-combat stuff works. But I think every other phase is just, they've said before, you use your abilities, they use theirs, done. That's the timing. Just, that's it. Beginning and end. Which is cool. And then finally, some battle traits may be commands with an associated cost, such as Heaven Sent. This powerful once per battle ability can return a destroyed unit to the battlefield at half strength, ready to smash aside the enemies of Sigmar once again. Once per battle, your movement phase for 1 CP. Pick a friendly, non-unique Stormcast Eternals infantry or cavalry unit that had started the battle with 2 or more models and that has been destroyed to be the target. Effect, set up a replacement unit with half the number of models from the target unit, rounding up, more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Cool. Okay. Great. Good. Fine.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see the economy of this one. Is it? I suppose it'll be according to the need at the time. Do you need probably more of that than anything? Do you need a dragon back, right? One Stormdrake guard,
Getting back one dragon.
Or do you need 5 liberators? For a unit of 10. If I'm understanding right, we're still looking at the potential of a unit of 10 Liberators, assuming a size of 5. They can be reinforced once, if I remember from a previous article. So yeah,
That's
that'll
right.
yeah. I'm really glad that they've got this right. They've expanded it out. It's not just Redeemer keyword, the Liberators, Vindictors,
Sure.
etc. So yeah, seems good.
Fine. And that's your assumingly that's your abilities, because it said Stormcast have 4, so I'm guessing this is the 4. So Stormcast have their lightning strike that they've always had, as well as they got finest hour, and this once a game replace a unit, half a unit thing now. So
Yeah.
that's your Stormcast rules. What do you think about that, Tyler? Are you ready to play Stormcast with that set of rules?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Seems good. I mean, that's some of the defining elements of when you think of Stormcast. I think of this stuff. Of course, my dragon example probably would not apply. Non-unique Stormcast infantry or cavalry. I doubt a dragon is going to be qualifying as a cavalry keyword. War scroll anytime soon. But
I don't know. It's a dude riding a thing. Feels like cavalry to me.
He might not be wrong. Yeah, seems good enough.
Okay.
So,
But of course,
battle formations.
That's not the only rules you have. Yes, these are your generic army rules, but there's more. But wait, it gets worse. We also have battle formations. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Tyler. This is the first thing I've read. I'm gonna give a little spoiler here. This is the first thing I've read out of all of this that honestly kind of let me down. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll get into why. But like, I don't hate this. It's not bad. It's just it let me down. Okay. So let me talk about why.
Yeah.
But let's talk about what these things are first. Each faction pack, the decks of cards released alongside the new edition, contains 4 battle formations. So you can lean into particular strategies and experiment with new army options from the start. Take the Thunderhead Host, which prioritizes mixing and matching units from the various chambers with its Synchronized Strikes passive ability, empowering warrior chamber units in combat while they are within 12 inches of a unit from members of a different chamber. Okay, so let's see what that means. Thunderhead Host, passive ability. Add 1 to hit rolls for combat attacks made by friendly warrior chamber units while they are wholly within 12 inches of any friendly non-hero Stormcast Eternals units that do not have the warrior chamber keyword. Okay, so encouraging you to mix up your units some, right?
Yep.
You got some Libby Raiders, and they get +1 to hit if there's some extremist dudes nearby, some Dracothian dudes or whatever.
Sure.
From Fulminators, I don't know, whatever, something. There we go. Pick Stormcast unit. Okay. Fine. All right. Okay. Let's read the other one here. Stormdrake Guard, Dracothian Guard, and other warriors and heroes of the Extremist Chamber often battle within a lightning echelon. Their oncoming storm ability conferring 1 unit per turn, the strikes first effect in combat on a roll of 3+. This kind of flexibility extends across the factions. We'll be seeing more what they can do when we come to the faction focuses next month. First of all, do the faction focuses sooner. Oh my god, I can't believe I have to wait till next month. That's so far away. Okay. So, Lightning Echelon. Once per turn, army, any combat phase. Declare. Pick a friendly extremist chamber unit that charged this turn. And effect, roll a die. On a 3-up, that unit has the strike first for the rest of the turn. Or has strike first for the rest of the turn. Okay, fine. Now, this one is okay. This one I don't like. All right? And the reason I don't like these is because, honestly, when they first spoiled these, what they said of battle formations is, we're moving them away from the more traditional sub-factions, where it was sort of encouraging a lot of, really what they were saying was encouraging a lot of spammy behavior. Take this unit, and then, this unit has a special ability, so now you just take a bunch of them, right?
Yeah, a lot of linear builds, linearity.
Yeah. And instead they said, no, what we're going to do instead is we're going to make it so you can, they'll be more about how you want to fight, right? And so I thought, cool, we'll have one that's about, castling up, and then one that's about alpha striking, or one that's about, being mobile and skirmishy, and one that's about being sort of hard hitting and pushing forward and getting people off objectives, right, and that kind of thing, you know. But then doing like alpha strike, beta strike sort of tactics, right?
Yeah.
And these aren't that. Like the Warrior Chamber one, yeah, I guess it encourages you. It is a little more open than the classic ones would have been, because it's certainly an anti-pure spam, right? Because obviously it means nothing if you're just going to take all the same unit. You have to kind of 50-50 your army is the incentive you sort of have there, right? Or something like that, 60-40 your army. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But the Lightning Echelon is just like, okay, I want multiple units of extremist things, so I can just always having a chance to activate this. Like, why would I take Oncoming Storm and then use one extremist chamber unit? Right? I would at the very least this should be the majority or the plurality of my army. Right?
Sure. Yep.
And so
Seemingly.
yeah. So it's just like, okay, and then if that's true, then I hope the War Scrolls really encourage me. Like, the hope is still not lost. I just want to be clear. But I really do want these, like, the War Scrolls could still encourage you to be dispersed across them, right? And I think we did get some evidence of that, as we'll see with the Vindictor. But this right here in a vacuum, in the void, says, cool, just if Stormdrake Guard were real good, just take a whole army of them, and they all then can access this ability. Like, yes, only one of them can use it a turn, but I'm only going to need one of them to use it a turn, right? So, okay. Like, that's based on just how combats are going and who's charging and whose turn it is. Realistically, to bust turn order open, I only need to use it on one of them, right? So, I that is like not as good to me. I was really hoping they'd lean more into sort of fighting styles or something, I guess. I don't want it more broadly tactics than referencing unit types. And I understand they didn't say, like, pick a friendly Stormdrake Guard, which is how the old ones would have been worded. So it is more broad, but it's still not broad enough in my estimation.
Yeah, yeah. No, I generally aligned with that concern. Yeah. Obviously, we will have to see when we see everything. We've talked a little bit about this. As you know, man, this is one of my areas of emphasis as well, right? As the guy who loves to promote Highlander, and which incidentally, I was so excited to see Plastic Crack have an article that came out today or yesterday about an event that had a Highlander element. It wasn't quite the hard Highlander, where it had to be 9 or more War Scrolls. It could be lower number. But yeah, love seeing that. So, there's other variables here, right, that are going to influence list building composition, which we've talked about before. A number of levers or ingredients that go into this recipe. So this is one. We'll see how dominant it is, how strong it is.
Yeah.
And hopefully, hopefully it'll balance out in the wash. And it won't
be
and
what I'll say
bad,
is, I mean, like, in counter to my own argument, first of all, Gareth, you shut your dirty mouth. That's number one. Number two is, like, these are pretty minimally weak sub-faction or whatever battle formation abilities, right? Like, there's not a huge amount here. The Lightning Echelon is betting your whole thing on a dice roll, right? There could be multiple turns in a row where this just does nothing because you roll the 1 or 2. The Synchronized Strikes is like +1 to hit for probably what's going to end up being like Liberators or people like that. So I don't know that it's that huge a deal, right? And so, like, if these are all that kind of minimal, okay, like, fine. Maybe there's such a weak incentive, and the incentive on the War Scrolls to actually have a diffuse set of tools in the toolbox is strong enough that it sort of legitimately doesn't matter. But then my concern is going to be what happens when you just don't have any battle formations that really match how you want to fight, right?
Yeah.
Like, hopefully there's always something that fits, but I guess time will tell. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, there's always going to be potential for winners or losers, right, with these various categories. So, yeah, this is one layer. battle formations, you're going to have winners and losers, you're going to have differentiation. Hopefully, we will continue to get better. They will continue to get better at the net balance with each of these layers. But yeah, I take your point though, right? I
Yeah.
see what you're laying down.
It'd be neater if it was like, okay, like in my mind, it would have been cooler if it was like Thunderhead Host.
Yeah.
Whenever you are, you get +1 to hit. Whenever you are attacking, whenever your unit, this isn't in proper rules words, so please excuse me. Like I'd have to rewrite this, but you get the point. You get +1 to hit whenever you're making an attack against a model that is contesting an objective, and that objective is not wholly within your territory, or something like that, right? So like, it's the hence saying you're the get out and go, attack people army, right? Or you could imagine the Alpha Beta Strike ability, like being something like your models get, models in your unit get +1 to wound if there is another one of your friendly units engaged with that unit that did not charge this turn.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So you sit there, you take the hit, you counter punch. That's a clear sort of strategy, right? And that's how the rules could be speaking about how did you build your army to function. Yeah. Here's some rules to sort of lean into that play style. For me, that would have been like way more interesting than what we got here. So that's it.
Yeah,
that's all.
No, fair enough. Yeah, we will see. But obviously hopefully we're nowhere near close the potential worst version of this, which is roughly analogous to where we were with 3.0 Battle Tomes, as you were saying, where you read this Night Hunt book and you see
take this one unit. You take only this one unit. Yeah, sure. I mean, we're definitely a step in the right direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Okay. Charles said, I wonder if the problem is them writing 90 of these, 4 for each faction. That's a pretty limited number of fighting styles. Sure, but you can like the combination of how that army, the theme of that army and the various fighting styles, like what they have, should produce a Venn diagram of 4 usable things, right? Sporadicus said it's the curse of early edition sub-faction traits. The first set of books will always have toned down traits, and the fun, strong ones will come around the middle of the edition. I mean, not with this stuff, because everything's getting written at once. Like, assumingly the indices will come out, and this is like the stuff for all, you got 24 armies or whatever. So like everybody should be on quote unquote equal footing as far as that timing goes, at least. So yeah. Okay. Cool. Good. Excellent. Anything else we want to say on this one with battle traits and battle formations?
Yeah.
Okay. Battle traits, I'm good. Battle formations, you get like a B-, I guess is what I'll say. Which is fine, because before we were getting a D.
Sure.
So we're improving. It's certainly a passing grade. It's just we could have had an A. Okay. All right, next up. This one, boy, oh boy. This one is a big one. Okay. So, combat stuff. Cool picture here of the Chaos people fighting some snake ladies. That's fun. Cool snake ladies. I wonder whose these are. Like, I've never seen these in any art before. Like the sort of red-haired snake ladies. I've never seen them use these in a photo shoot before. So.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if it's like somebody's army and they borrowed it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, those are nice.
Yeah, came out really cool. Hey, whoever's army this is, if it's like the army painter team that did it, or if the heavy metal team did it, or maybe it's just someone's personal army at GW. Great job. We like your stuff.
Beautiful. Did you see Will Albright's snake army at Adepticon? Will was at Trash Clash again. I think he took home the best painted or favorite army
yes, I did.
award. Yeah, it was really, really well done.
Nice. All right, so combat. Here we go. The changes to commands mean that countercharge and power through are powerful new tools to turn the tides of battle. We've already seen that every miniature now has a combat range in a 3-inch radius, and this simple change has plenty of far-reaching ramifications that result in a smoother and more satisfying combat phase. Players familiar with the current edition will find the new process very similar. Units still charge into combat and fight, but these now also work as abilities with clearly defined declaration and effect steps. All right. So, first of all, charge. Declare. Pick a friendly unit that is not in combat and has not used run or retreat ability this turn to use this ability. Then make a charge roll of 2d6 inches. Boom. Got him. Exactly as I said when we talked about this in the command show, and people were like, wait, I have to re-roll the charge before I roll my 2d6? And I was like, no, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Not if in the declare step it tells you to roll the 2d6, because that's how the rule said. It said resolve everything from the declare, then use reactions, then resolve the effect. And in fact, there's what it is. Okay, cool. So you make the roll. And also you don't have to pick who you're charging. Right? As always.
Seemingly you do not have to be within 12 inches
That's
to attempt to charge.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So, effect. That unit can move a distance up to the value of the charge roll. That unit can move through the combat ranges of any enemy units and must end that move within half inch of a visible enemy unit. If it does so, the unit using this ability has charged. They have to be visible to charge them now. That was a thing. That didn't used to be a thing. So you can't just like suddenly whip around the corner and hit somebody or something like that. That is a change.
Yeah. Yeah. And previously we had to, it wasn't always done, but right, according to the rules, we had to have the first model be the one that finished within a half inch. So they've removed that, which is a good thing. It was, little weird.
Yeah, it's not.
that it is, but-
You can still spread out to some degree, right? Because the whole unit doesn't have to end within a half an inch, which would be impossible in most cases. It's just
Yeah.
the unit has to end within a half
Yeah.
inch. So somebody's doing it. Somebody.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, and you can see it as the keywords core, move, charge. All of which then limit it as to what it can do and stuff like that. You can't use more than one ability of this type, and you can't use more than one core ability, and so on and so forth, right? So easy keywording. Okay, simple enough. Great. Good. I look forward to whatever Skaven exception I have that says that when I retreat, I can still use the charge ability, right? So that's all I want. Where's my Skaven? I get to still retreat and charge ability. That's all I want to know. And then declare, pick a friendly, fight. Put up your dukes, Tyler. We're gonna fight. Okay. I ain't got no dukes. I'm a goat. All right. So pick a friendly unit that is in combat or that has charged this turn to use this ability. That unit can make a pile-in move. Then, if that unit is in combat, which means within 3 inches, you must pick one or more enemy units as the targets of that unit's attacks. Effect, resolve combat attacks against the target units. Units. Core attack fight. Great. Like the clarification here that you always get to still use this, even if you charged, even if you're not in combat, because like you are a Stonehorn or something and do mortal damage on the charge or whatever, so you hit them and kill the unit. You still get to do your pilot move, right? Even though you're not in combat at that moment.
Right. Yeah.
So that's cool. Cool. Great. Okay.
Somebody
Easy
asked
peasy.
on charge if you need visibility in order to attempt to charge. I mean, not according to this at the start, but when you finish your move within a half inch, let's see, and unit must end, am I reading that correctly? Must end that move within a half inch of a visible enemy unit. So the unit does not have to be visible whenever you first attempt a charge, but must be visible when you end the charge.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it checks out. It's good to clarify that. But yeah, that seems to be the case.
Either an FAQ or it's explained in the more broad rules that are around it, because obviously we're just getting the ability, right? There's probably more text around this somewhere, but yeah. I'm sure that like we haven't seen the actual visibility section, something like that.
Right.
Also,
right.
yes, the visible clause is probably just so you can't fight through a wall. So if
Sure.
I like charge up to a wall and they're standing on the other side,
Right.
like I'm technically within range, but I'm not just like fighting through ghost walls anymore. Like it used to be that in the current rules, everybody sort of has ghostly weapons where they can just swing through walls, right?
Right. Yeah.
What if they're garrisoned? Well, let's hope that just doesn't exist. How about that? That's what I hope for. Throw garrisoning out of the game. Get it out of here. That'd be my win. But I don't know if they are garrisoned. I assume like if garrisoning is still a thing, then I assume it's just like if you draw line of sight to the building, you have line of sight to the unit because you know they're in there, right? Something like that. Okay. The order of operations is generally much clearer in this edition. Let's get to that. Let's get to the hot stuff right here. There are no more start of phase or end of phase subphases. In each phase, the active player uses any of their abilities in whichever order they want. Yeah, here we go. I knew I read this exact thing I just said when we were talking about the last article. It's like I knew I read that exact text. Here it is. And then their opponent can do the same, like the Ardboy Shield Bash and the Blood Sisters Crystal Touch. Okay, so Ardboy Shield Bash. Declare. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit and that charged this turn to be the target. So an enemy unit that's in combat and that has charged. So that's when you can Shield Bash. Make a Shield Bash roll of a d6 for each model in this unit. For each 6, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. Which tells me Ardboys are your Anvil unit. They're the one that wants to sit there and take the charge. Right, because that's when they're going to get to use their Shield Bash. We'll see that again in a moment with the Vindictors. But I really like this like clear play to speaking to rolls through the special abilities. We'll really see it broken out here in a second on the Vindictors. But like these are your Anvil, right? That's what this is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody charges you, you get to do a punch them in the face, right? And by the way, you're punching them before they're fighting.
Sure.
Okay. So, pretty good. And then Crystal Touch, very different now. This ability cannot stay the same. This has changed like every book, every edition.
Yeah.
Pick an enemy unit that is in combat with this unit to be the target. So just period, they get to do it all the time. And effect, roll a die. If the roll exceeds the target's health characteristic, the target has strike last for the rest of the turn. Okay, so, real good at making low health models go last.
Yeah.
Neat.
One thing, Vince, about this, and maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but right, we're playing a game and you charge into the Ardboys, and apparently, according to this, it sounds like I'm allowed to do this at any time. Now, of course, it's clear that I'm not going to do it at certain times. But the fact that we have that freedom, I do wonder if that's going to lead to an unhealthy amount of, oh wait, I need to do this.
Oh, sure.
People, right? Without, like, I wonder if the freedom could be a net negative in how this actually plays out with regard in the lack of structure as far as the timing of some of this. Hopefully not. That was just one thought that came to my head as we're reading this.
I don't think it'll be a net negative in the long term. I mean, because generally I think you'll look at your war scrolls or whatever, and you'll look for the red abilities, or if you can, again, assuming you're not colorblind or something, or like you'll look for the little combat phase abilities, right? And you'll say, okay, let me make sure I use all these ones. Okay, I've used all my red ones, all my combat phase ones. All right, we're good. Okay, let's fight. Right. Yeah. And that's what you do. Oh, it's hero phase. Let me find all my gold abilities. Right. Or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I really like Crystal Touch a lot. I love it that, again, it gives this unit a clear role. Tyler, without seeing anything else about this War Scroll, okay, what are the Blood Sisters good at fighting?
Well, I mean, historically, with their Crystal Touch, they were good at fighting heroes, hero monsters, things with really good armor.
Yeah.
The mortal wounds that they could do. The roll exceeds the target's health characteristic. The target has strike last for the rest of the turn. Yeah, what are you thinking here?
Infantry. And infantry and light cav. Right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like that's who this unit is good against, right?
The number of attacks that they put out, and
because like I don't know anything about the rest of their scroll. I haven't seen a weapon profile, I haven't seen anything else, right? But what I know is that I have a very high chance of succeeding on my Crystal Touch if I'm fighting like 1 wound, 2 wound infantry or light cav. Right? So if they're big stabby things, as we'll see in a minute, have like anti-infantry +1 damage or something like that, right? Then it's like, okay, cool, we got, that's their role, right? And so what I love about this, and we might as well just get it. We'll get into the Vindictor here in a moment. But what I love about this is I really like this skill testing element to the game. So this is a thing that kind of, it's always been there in AOS, but it was really there in Warhammer Fantasy, and is to a degree in to this day in the old world, if you've played the old world. But like, especially in fantasy, your deployment mattered a lot. Okay, like who were you lining up against? Because your ability, unless you were a very high move army in a rank and flank game, to go from like one side of the battlefield to the other, is very low.
Yeah.
Right. If you set up on this side of the battlefield, if this is your deployment, like if my screen is the battlefield, right, and I set a unit up here, the chances of them getting in a fight with this unit that's the enemy sets up right here is not 0, but very low. Right.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Until maybe like super late in the game or something like that, unless they're like a really high move. Through sort of 360 model, like a hero on Pegasus or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So who you were generally lined up against, like my unit's here, what's set up here in this general space, was really mattered a lot. Now AOS is a lot more free flowing, right, in how things move around the battle. Speed of units is generally higher. The ability of units to kind of warp and turn and move around each other is a lot easier, which really increases the complexity. Right.
It's gotten, I think we've talked about it. It's gotten out of control, in my opinion, and I suspect yours. You've played so many games of 3rd edition where most armies that I fight against, right, they just have extraordinary mobility. Sure. Teleport, and the game has always had a lot of mobility, but we went to 44x60 board sizes, and we still have, moving in the hero phase or run and charge, and it's just, it's pretty wild, the state of mobility in the game at the tail end of 3rd.
Yeah. And so assumingly there'll still be like plenty of high move things, right? Who knows what movement will look like completely, but assumingly things are still pretty mobile, we'll still be playing a more mobile game where things can morph and move around. And that's good. That, like I said, that actually makes it that's why rank and flank games are like simpler. They just are. They are.
There's a B word you could have used. That's all right.
What's the B word?
B-O. Bore.
No, they're not boring. They are not boring. They are simpler though, because you only have like in the end, in most rank and flank situations, you have like 6 game pieces, and it's lined up against their 6 game pieces, and like deployment matters a ton, and there's not that much that's going to change. You just need to like make a few correct decisions with it, with a much higher amount of known information. In AOS, you're making a lot of decisions with a huge amount of uncertainty, right?
Yep.
But the point is that the skill testing thing that I did love from that was, can I get my correct unit to fight their correct unit, right? Because that's how I'm going to win. Sure. If I can have my horde breaker hit their horde, especially hit their horde in the flank, right? I win this game. Okay. And so like trying to engineer those matchups was always the big skill testing part. In AOS, it's a lot higher sort of skill floor and a tougher skill test, but like you obviously want to get your sisters to be in a position where their only choice is to charge your blood sisters or something with their like 1 wound infantry, because they need to get there to get that objective, right? And you're like, ho, map, chop, you're dead, right? Like that's the thing you want to engineer. Yeah.
Interesting.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I like where you're going. Yeah, going with this. I mean, some ways what I'm hearing you say is that maybe this is a sign that we're going to see more war scrolls that are role defined, which maybe they've talked about that as one of their.
They did mention it, yeah. Yep.
Okay, so which seemingly could be a considerable net positive in the army composition, the play experience, the tactics, etc. There certainly can be a downside. I mean, I think about Dawn Riders, when Dawn Riders with Lumineth, right? There's a war scroll that has a very clear role, and yet I would dare say a lot of the times they are not performing that role of because they're not fighting an army that has 1 or 2 wound models. They're
Right.
going and getting like surround and destroy battle tactic. They're contributing to intimidate the invaders. They're there to cast spells, or often they're there to be a screen, and that's their job. And so it's not the purpose that they were designed for. So there's still some potential, seemingly, for that to happen. It'd be interesting to see how well they can do. Basically to avoid the Dawn Rider situation, and other examples like that.
Yep.
But yeah, no, that's fair point. Yeah, with this.
So I really think, and again, the Vindictor scroll and the Kroiger scroll that we're going to see, I love that they used Kroigers. Oh, it was Christmas when I opened this article today and I saw they used Kroigers. By the way, if you haven't yet, hit like for Kroigers and for my butchered pronunciation that I will never change of this. So yeah. No, I like these more defined roles. I think it's much more helpful for new players, especially as we'll see when we get down to them, especially when there's like direct indicators to it, right? So, okay. Yeah. Cool. So combat sequence does have a slight difference in that you use all of your abilities first, then you fight, right? So
okay, well there we go. So that gets into my concern, seemingly, right?
Yes, this is the phase that's different.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
The combat phase has one significant difference to other phases. After both players have resolved any of their other abilities, then they take turns to activate units and use fight abilities, starting with the active player. And then strike first and strike last just happen on either side of normal fight abilities. So, active player uses all their combat phase abilities. Opponent uses all of their combat phase abilities. Players alternate using fight abilities, starting with the active player. That's it. So there you go.
Yep. Very good. That resolves the concern.
Yep. And big change here on pile-in moves. Oh boy. For such a minor thing. First of all, I think piling in general will be much less of a time-consuming problem now that just everybody's 3-inch reach, thank God.
Yeah.
Like, I think for the most part, you'll just be like, okay, they fight. That's more or less what it'll have to be most of the time.
Yeah.
Ben Briccio says like La Croix. Yeah, exactly, like La Croix. The water, the carbonated water. La Croix, you know what I'm talking about. La Croix. Okay. So at any rate, some abilities such as fight abilities allow a unit to make a short move called a pile-in move. If your unit is in combat, pick an enemy unit your unit is in combat with to be the target of the pile-in move. So first of all, that's important thing number one. You get to choose who is actually the target of this pile-in move. Right. Each model in your unit can move up to 3 inches. That move can pass through the combat ranges of other enemy units, so you don't have to worry about staying outside of combat range. Great. Yep. But each model must end that move no further from the target unit. So you're setting the target, and then it creates the orbit around, so you could shimmy, shake over to the side or whatever. Yep. Okay. At the end of the move, your unit must still be in combat with all units that it was in combat with at the start of the move.
Yeah, really, really sharp that they caught that. They added that.
Big change. Yeah. How many times, Tyler, have you piled out of combat with a single model?
No, absolutely.
Countless. Countless. Yeah. I'll be like, haha, I pile away from you. And now this unit is stranded, right? Because they didn't charge or whatever. Nope. No more. You can still move. But you gotta like, but that 3-inch line is like a barrier. Tunk, tunk, you bump up against, right? That's great. And yes, it is unit to unit as well. So there you go. And then Eric Doty said, Limoncello is the La Croix. Is the top of the La Croix meta. I agree. My wife agrees with you. She's deep into that limoncello life. So there you go. If your unit is not in combat, each model in your unit can move 3 inches in any direction. That move can pass through and end within the combat ranges of any enemy units. So if you like charge and blow your unit up on the charge and you're not near anything, you go anywhere you want.
Yeah.
You go anywhere you want. You just 3 inches. Go nuts. Yeah. Just great.
Yeah, so this means at the end of the move, at the end of your unit must still be in combat with all units that it was in combat with. Right, so we have this concept of tagging, You could tag on the left, you tag on the right as a way of reducing what the enemy could do, right? You're reducing their pile-in. So there will seemingly continue to be some nuance and skill expression, whatever you want to call it, right? Within all of this.
Yep.
You can still, you can still do some updated 4th edition version of tagging that could have an impact on your opponent's ability to get all the models swinging that they would otherwise be able to if you didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I like that. But yeah, it should be a lot faster with this orientation. I've seen some people express concern, right, Vince, that we're gonna, a lot of the skill expression nuance of AOS is seemingly going away. I really doubt that's going to be the case. I think there's still going to be
so completely.
Yeah, it's still going to be a lot.
What we've been missing is, again, and I go back to the role definition where some units are good at fighting certain things and that's where they can punch above their weight. This is the skill expression we were missing. And frankly, it was way easier when I could just take any old unit I want, soup it up to the wind, right? Just all just like 3 sheets to the wind, just pile it on, throw the dumb thing forward and know whatever I hit, I was going to blend into ribbons. Real tight skill expression there, right? And that's been AOS in a lot of its history, okay? Sure. So get off your high horse with that nonsense, okay? But when you have things where you're trying to engineer, and they're trying to engineer their own matchups, by the way, not have that happen. You guys are fighting against each other, right? You're trying to get your anti-infantry stuff into their infantry, make sure you have your counterpunch units lined up to do so, make sure you have your anvils being the things they have to hit. That's real skill expression where you're actually actively playing the game against your opponent, not finding the minutia between the rules.
Sure.
Of oops, I piled in my beautiful little sippy dippy silly formation that lets me fight with my 32-inch models with 1 inch reach nonsense crap. Yeah. Not that there still won't be some of that. There certainly will be. Okay? There will be. There just will. What else did you have concern on? Or what else? What else do you think about this?
Much. I mean, I like it. We've talked forever about a desire to see them simplify piling in because it has been one of the biggest time sinks in the game's history. And I've felt that more than ever with 30 skeletons from the weekend.
Sure.
So, sign me up. I'm ready for it.
Absolutely. All right, speaking of fighting, the process of working out combat will be familiar to players with a few key changes. Unmodified rolls of a 6 are now critical hits, a term that can trigger a range of new effects on attacks, while mortal wounds have been renamed mortal damage. Overall, the rend has been reduced throughout the game, and while you can still positively modify your save profile with all-out defense, this remains capped at +1. Most factions lack any other tools to further increase a unit's save profile, so save stacking, the process of negating rend by adding extra save, is largely a thing of the past. Hey, cool. Great, glad to hear it. I'm here for it.
Do we want to pause there?
Yeah. I mean, this is very much worth a discussion.
Yeah. Okay, so how are you reading this? They've qualified this, right? The process of negating rend by adding extra save is largely a thing of the past, not entirely or categorically.
No.
So it sounds like what I'm getting at is how do you think so it sounds like save stacking, quote unquote, can continue to exist. You come in, you hit me with Liberators, with I can't remember if I think they've got -1 rend now, the new war
with
school,
something
right?
with rend 2.
Something with rend, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, something with
you
rend 2.
You have +2 to your save, and I have rend 2. You're on a base save of 3. What save are you at now? I argue I think the way it's going to play is the same as it does now, where you're still on a 3. Right. You had +2 to save, you had -2 to rend, they counter each other out, you're back to your normal save.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Tyler, if you remember, at the beginning of 3rd edition, we had a 4-hour conversation when I was driving back from Chicago, all right?
Oh, yeah.
And I said, I don't think we need rules changes to the base rules at all to stop save stacking. What we need is to go through the game and gut the +1 to save abilities, right? Just like the meme of death going to all the doors and just killing all of them, right? Just that's what we need to do. Just chop, 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 chop. Just hack them out of the game. Other than a few high armor armies that are meant to play that way. Okay. Like, I fully believe Mystic Shield is gone. That's clearly what this is implying.
100%. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And or
it
doesn't do +1 to save anymore, is what I mean.
Exactly.
Right? Like, sorry, the current version of Mystic Shield is gone.
Right.
And the reality is, good. Like, if you're playing a high armor save stacking army, Stormcast, probably the Iron Wall of Chaos, right? All that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, Mark Andre, that's exactly right. Like, Mystic Shield could be like a ward. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm meaning, right? So it's not contributing to save stacking, is what I meant. But the fact that we know Stormcast have access to at least +2 because they have a finest hour and all out defense, right? So you could take that unit and give them +2. Great. They can stay on their 3-up even against a strong rend. Okay. Sounds good for that one unit that can do that a turn.
Yep.
Right? That feels wholly appropriate for Stormcast and for like Chaos Warriors or, whatever, something like that, right? I don't know. I don't know who else in the game is like your high armor faction. Those might be like the two. Iron Jaws, I guess, perhaps. I don't know.
Enough a little bit.
Like, that could be part of the identity of Iron Jaws now. I'm not sure. If they want to broaden out Iron Jaws from just like, we punch things hard, that would be one way to go, right? That could be a part of their identity now. Let me tell you who shouldn't have it and who had it historically.
OCR.
Oh, yeah, OCR. Sorry, thank you. Yes, perfect. That's another great example there. OCR, yes, absolutely. So, OCR would be the example from Death. Sylvaneth, you're out of here. You're out of here, tree people. As part of the save stacking nonsense. Like, that's ridiculous.
I can do it well.
I understand. You're dumb. You're made of bark. Okay, you know what bark is weaker than? Steel. That's why we don't wear. That's why we never made our. We didn't never make it. People did use tree and wood stuff for armor many times, but that's why ultimately steel armor replaced other materials. Get out of here with your nonsense. Okay, you're trees. You're a tree. Okay. So stop it. Stop it. Get help. Sylvaneth universally on like a 5-up save, except for the tree people, the big tree people who get to be on a 4-up save. That's my new statement. I have no proof of that. That's just what I want. I'm willing. I'm the secreting that into existence. Okay.
Let's see. Yeah. So I think you're right. It'll continue to be as it is now, but just more constrained, which will be good.
Matthew Taylor says, you try chopping down a full-grown oak with a sword. Is it a magic sword, as most people in this army wield, or these games wield? Because if so, I bet I can do it. I've watched a lot of anime, and you know what happens there? Whoosh! One slice of that katana and like 7 trees get cut in half. I don't care how thick they are. So yeah, I can imagine it. It's real easy. Okay. Plus, a lot of these dudes use axes, which is like literally meant to cut down a tree. Okay. At any rate. Yeah, I think this is good. Like, overall, save stacking being eliminated from the game through just gutting out these abilities. By the way, I'd like to see a commensurate reduction in mortal damage in the game as well.
Oh,
so that we're not in this arms race. Right? That's also an important thing to say.
Yeah.
That in the same way should be a thing. I long ago argued that we should build the color pie for Grand Alliances, where they have like easy access. So the color pie in Magic is like, who gets first strike? Okay. So like first strike exists in the white portion of the color pie, very cheap and free. Like lots of things will have it all up and down the cost. They don't generally pay any extra for it. It can basically just be a vanilla ability they have. Okay. And then like red can have it secondarily, but they'll usually pay for it some. Black can have it a little bit, but they have to pay for it a lot. And then green and blue don't get it at all. Okay.
Yeah.
So like these things tend to have identities. Okay. And in the same way, I'd like to see those things kind of relegated. Like certain armies have more access to mortal damage. Like if you came to me and said Tzeentch has a lot of mortal damage through its spells and commensurate sort of abilities like that, I'd be like, yeah, okay, of course.
Sure.
Like, yeah. Right? Great. They're good at fighting Stormcast. Now, it shouldn't be so good that they just wipe them off the table.
Right.
Right? But they should be the army that's better at that. In the same way that, like, Stormcast have one extra way to grab a save bonus. You know, that kind of thing. Okay. Keith Rogers said miniguns are pretty good at cutting down trees. Just saying. I agree. I agree. Okay. Alex Forbes, is AoS 4.0 a magic weapon versus magic wood arms race? Yes, exactly. Which is more magical? That's right. Okay. Great. So, anything else on that one, or are you feeling good?
Yeah. Excited. I'm liking this next one too.
Oh, I love this next one. This like threw everybody for a loop because of how they wrote this, when it's actually the simplest idea in the world. But I don't blame the people who are confused by this, because it's just like this is not clearly explained. They should have just put in the rules text. But anyways, there's a slight change to the way damage is allocated. Instead of allocating damage points to a model in a unit, damage points are now allocated to the unit as a whole. When the total damage of points allocated to the unit equals the health characteristic of that unit, the commanding player removes a model from that unit, but they must stay in coherency. I don't know if they could have found a worse way to explain this, but let me simplify this way down. When you get attacked and suffer damage, you don't have to pick whom in the unit has been damaged anymore. Instead, the unit amorphously is carrying the damage, right? So if you just set a die behind it, 3, doesn't matter. Yeah. Oops, sorry, you marked the wrong one. You got to pull that one now, right?
Right.
We've all accidentally put the dice behind something that we then didn't want to pull and been like, oh, I put the dice behind this one. I got to keep pulling it. No, the unit takes it. When it takes enough damage to equal one of the dudes, you pull a dude. That's it. That's it, and that's all. So let's make it even more real. Let's talk Gore Gruntas. My favorite. Pigs. Let's say they've still got 5 wounds. Who knows? Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Right. I mean, they're pretty big and beefy. So, but who knows? Maybe they'll still have 5 wounds. I'm personally pulling for 6, but we'll see. You got the unit. If they take 3 damage, they took 3 damage. It's there. It's effectively on the scroll. The unit has taken 3 damage. Nothing changes. I don't need to pick a particular model.
Having war scrolls laid out in front of them, and they just put the dice on that war scroll.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then once you get to 5, you pull a pig. Which pig do you pull? Whichever one you want, as long as the model remains coherent. That's it. Which pig do you want to pull at that moment? Pull that pig. Pull that beautiful pig footage. That's it. Just pull a pig. Okay? That's all it is.
That's fantastic. Simple, elegant. I love it.
Right. It's like, why didn't it always work like this? Is my question. I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
So, okay.
This is one of those where it's like, I don't know. When I read this, like, oh God, they really are getting into the guts of this and starting from the ground up, and cleaning up these opportunities to simplify, increase elegance. This feels so cool. It's the simplest thing in the world. It feels weird talking about it this long, but it's great. Like, it's gonna have a meaningful improvement in the play experience.
Yeah, this is really good. I love this so much. I love not having to remember which dumb idiot in the unit is wounded anymore. Because, certainly when I played at home, I would just kind of set the dice down, and then, somebody, I would be like, oh, crap, I didn't want to pull that one. Is it okay if I pull this not standard bearer instead? And it's a friendly game, and people are like, yeah, I don't care. Just like, let's be honest. Oftentimes in your casual games, this is just how you played anyways. People would just be like, yeah, just pull a thing. Like, who cares? Just remove the model. Right? So, there you go. That's it. I assume it tells us what happens if we can't stay in coherency. Then I'm sure something else happens, right? So, there you go.
It makes me. Let's see, Grumby pointed it out. Is it Grumby? Let me look here. Yeah, Grumdy. This is one of the best quality of life changes in the dish so far. 100%. Like, I'm excited to go through Tom and you know, our like list of most significant quality of life improvements. Could be
This
the
needs to be
smallest
on
thing.
the list.
Yeah.
100%. This is in pole position right now. This is an Oscar nominee already. Early in the year, you know, sometimes you get a movie that comes out in like April, and you're like, that's going to be a favorite for the Oscars later in the year, like 12 months, you know, 10 months from now or whatever, right? That's this rule. What a great quality of life change, because it actually aligns with how people in their head play the game, anyways, which is what you want to do. Okay, unit roles. Boy, oh boy, here we go. Let's freaking go. With combat range gone, you might have some questions about how a warrior with a hammer is set apart from one with a spear. No, I don't, and that's stupid. This has been handled by further differentiating the role of each unit on the battlefield. That's the important part. What an insane thing to start with. Hammers versus spears. No. With combat, this thing should have started out with, we think unit roles are important. They help people learn the game. They make it easier to understand how the various game elements, pieces, the war scrolls work. They make for deeper tactical play, and they make it much more compelling and interesting as a skill check for experienced players. As such, we have differentiated the role for each unit on the battlefield by strongly pushing roles onto the individual war scrolls to make sure they're set apart from each other. See, that's how you write copy. Okay? Like, we didn't need this discussion about hammers and spears to start this off. This section is my point. Like, we can have a discussion about hammers and spears and how you'll differentiate weapon types. But that's not really always going to align, right? It's going to align with whatever they think the role of the unit is. Like, there's going to be some people with spears. You know it, Tyler. I know it. The American people know it. Who are, like, good at charging and not good at taking charges. Like, that'll just be the case.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, get out of here with that. Okay. It's not like spear is a thing that just has this rule. So, okay. Whatever. All right. So, great. They have, so the Vindictors. Anti-charge plus 1 rend. Great. So, when they are charged, they have the opportunity to strike first, and regardless, they get plus 1 rend. Great. So they go from 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend 1, 1 damage, to 2 attacks, 3s, 3s, rend 2, 1 damage.
Yep.
When charged. If that doesn't clearly delineate right away what these guys are for standing out and taking a hit. They are your anvil. Very clear. And then you've got the shield wall ability. If this unit did not charge and is in combat with an enemy unit that charged, roll a die. On a 4-up, they get strike first. Hello, Cleveland. Now we're cooking with gas.
That's really good. Yeah.
And obviously these guys are Warrior Chamber, by the way, just to be clear. So hence the earlier, what was it, Thunderhead host thing or whatever.
Yeah.
So if they happen to be, if the other unit that wants to countercharge, right, the aggressive beta strike unit is behind them, then they could potentially be 2 attacks, 2s and 3s, rend 2, 1 damage, striking first. That's a pretty good anvil. That's a pretty good anvil. Yes, they could. And they could Finest Hour. Yeah, good point. Yeah, and they Finest Houred. Yeah. 2 attacks, 2s, rend 2, damage 1, strike first. Now we're cooking with gas. Now those Vindictors are going to act like they do in the trailer. Striking down, killing us some swamp bogglers. Ready to go. Okay. It's cool. Like, this is what I've been... Honestly, Tyler, this is what I've wanted. This is what I have been shouting about. You can go back. You can look at 10 shows we've done over the course of 3.0 and into 2.0 even, where I was talking about the need for better role definition. And this is exactly what I had in mind. Right? Exactly.
Yep. I dig it. It's good stuff.
Like, I don't know what else to say except I'm glad I have a bunch of Vindictors painted.
For
The
sure.
my rat casts are ready to go. I got plenty of Vindictors. I was ready with Vindictors. Love me some Vindictors.
Yeah.
So, cool. Good. I mean, does this excite you? Like, you often want to see the differentiation. So my question for you, Tyler, is: do you think having, let's say like this amount of roll setting, whatever this is, I would call this like moderate incentives, right?
Sure.
It's there. It's clear. It's very clear. It's not a light touch. It's also not like the strongest touch in the world, right? Like you could
Yeah.
imagine this. You could imagine an even stronger version of this. But uh, May said, "I know nothing about AOS or 40k. Who are these lizard guys? Seraphon? They look sweet. Yeah, man, because they are. Dinosaurs riding dinosaurs is like super cool. You're exactly right. But at any rate, do you think if this is the level of differentiation we get, we're going to see actual incentive toward mixed arms as you've described you wanting in the past?
Yeah, I would certainly think so. Yeah. The This is a pretty light touch.
Mm-hmm.
There's very few variables here, which I like. So, there's still some unknowns, like we haven't seen a Stormcast Hero War Scroll. We've seen the Gashes War Scroll. It's hard to make many judgments off of one of the super characters in the game with one of the more complex War Scrolls when the War Scrolls are getting a lot simpler now.
Yep.
But yeah, I could imagine what they've discussed. Them doing a much better job of putting forward 60 War Scrolls wherever we're going to be at with Stormcast, and 85%, 80%, 85%, that's probably too, 80% are worth considering.
Yep.
Like, if they can do that, yeah, right, in terms of role differentiation, just you have this slate of options on the table, and you're looking at different variables: battle plan, battle tactics, play style, interest, etc. And yeah, you're getting a pretty high percentage. It, Seemingly, I could see them executing that with this kind of orientation that they have here. It's simple, and yeah, that's simple as what we need a lot more of in this game.
Yeah. Agreed.
So
I don't know, Gareth. I mean, I don't know if I'm on that train. I'd need to think about it more. Maybe. But I think this like combines for a good profile with a clear role. We'll have to see. And I mean, again, the points could make the difference. You're right. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. Speaking of things with roles, Kroigers. Again, up to 6 health. Boom. Look at that. I mean, they're beefy boys. Okay, the Kroiger. Did you see this picture up here, Tyler, of the Kroiger standing here next to the Swamp Bogglers? Look at how huge these guys are compared to the Swamp Bogglers. They're massive.
I'm stuck on Garrett's comment. Real quickly on his, yeah, I mean, that's okay. I don't want to get distracted. There's always the potential for that, right? I mean, we've had that reality for a long time within the context. I'm just saying that I think there is real opportunity that they're going to do a better job of reducing the probability of that happening as often as it has happened, especially with Stormcast. Yeah, where there's, right, that's what I'm saying. You've got, anyway, not to rehash the point, but yeah, he's right. That could happen. And it is interesting looking at those two War Scrolls, but of course we're operating largely in a vacuum at the moment, so it's hard to say. All right, what are you going on about, Kroiger? What's up here? What are we excited about?
They rule. First of all, they're 6 health now, which is
Yep,
awesome.
we started at 4.
Now
Okay.
we're finally up to the correct amount of health. Because again, they're beefy boys. Like they're so much bigger than those Swamp Bogglers, which are themselves like, not small. Like they're orcs. They're pretty big.
Yeah.
But you got 2 Drakebite balls and a Moonstone hammer in the unit, very clearly laid out there, right?
Mm.
And so the and by the way, I love this breakdown of Big Dumb Bruiser. Like Big Dumb Bruisers hit on 4s. This is my argument. I'm so happy to see it. Let's go. But they wound on 2s. Yeah, correct. Because they're Big Dumb Bruisers. Right?
Hmm.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be interesting, man. Yeah, what kind of ecosystem we're looking at, because I mean a lot of us over the years have, right? We see a unit that's hitting on fours, and by God, we love to complain about it
Yeah, but
because
now,
that's not the baseline in the ecosystem that we've lived
right,
in.
because the
We've lived,
baseline was set so strongly at 3. But if
yeah,
you've got a bunch of stuff hitting on 4s, if the new baseline is more around 4, and like if you see a lot of like 3s and 4s, or 2s and 4s, and 4s and
yeah,
2s, or 4s and 5s, and whatever, right? If that's the kind of spread you're seeing, I'm much happier, honestly.
yeah.
But these dudes are awesome. I mean, obviously, I don't know how many points they are. Who knows? They could be like
Mm,
a million points and be dumb. But written on scroll, I love them. Two,
mm,
so objective control 2, as opposed to the objective control 1. So, okay, cool. And base models. The 2 guys are making 8 attacks on 4s and 2s, rend 1/2 damage. But if they're fighting infantry of any kind, rend 2.
yeah.
And brutal blows, brutal weapon.
Mhm.
Add 1 to the damage characteristic of this unit's melee weapons for attacks that target an enemy unit that has 10 or more models. So these guys really want to go hunt some infantry. Really want to go hunt some infantry. Right? That is their thing. This leads directly to what I was talking about before, right? Can you get these guys in the fight with the infantry?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we've always had what you've been describing this show to some degree
Mm-hmm.
with an ecosystem, but of course you're talking about the potential for it to be a lot more pronounced,
Yeah,
which I think you're right is, would be a better world to live in terms of how list building happens, how the game is played, and so on. So yeah, I'm here for it. A friend of mine, David, Sidebottom, been on the show, Sylvaneth guy. David was
yep,
talking to me about uh, Tom, you often discuss the concept of power per square inch. So when we're talking about a lot, we have everything moving to 3 inch. So seemingly there's some potential of infantry raising in value due to that standardized 3 inch reach. Now we're looking at no double reinforcement anymore. So
yep.
potentially no longer 60 zombies or 30 skeletons, depending on what the min size looks like. But point being, there could be a real potential for the value to still be sizable for those kinds of units, power per square inch, as opposed to. But yeah, and that's where, yeah, if you have generally an ecology that's offsetting that reality with enough units that are designed to counter it, could be quite cool. Well, yeah, hard to say how all of this is going to shake out, but yeah, man, I like what I see here.
Agreed. Uh, I like this a lot. I love you trying to and again, you're trying to line this up like you imagine the Seraphon versus Doc showdown, right?
Right.
And it's like your nightmare situation is when your Doc is that these things go get into your witch elves, right? What you're
Yeah.
trying to go tag these things with is like a cauldron or something like that, right? You're
Hmm.
trying to maneuver your bigger, heavier pieces to go hit these where all their bonuses shut off, right? And they're still a
Yeah.
scary unit, don't get me wrong, but like their effectiveness goes way down if they're like swinging into your uh uh idol or something like that, right? Or
Hmm.
your slaughter queen on cauldron, right?
Right.
Whereas if they get into your witch elves, it's just like
Yeah.
evaporation,
Totally.
right?
It makes me think
So
when I was able to send Laukavai in one game after this was for a wound Kroger, and oh man, she loved getting into 6 of them. They couldn't do a damn thing to her, and she took them out in 3 activations, all
right,
sick.
right,
Just
exactly.
yeah,
And like being able to like play against your opponent and have that sort of skill match is really what
um,
I've been that's sort of what I dream about. That's when you actually feel like you're being a general on the
right,
table, right? When you're
right,
like, yes, I have made the right moves. I've got the right, I have made, or like I have engineered the fights that I want to fight that bring victory,
yeah.
right? That to me is actual skill expression. Okay. All right. Cool stuff. But wait, there's more. Tyler, we're not done yet. There's still
Mm.
more. We haven't even talked about some of the biggest things yet. Coherency range. All that moving, charging, piling in, and general jostling around is also tied to coherency, which represents how units move and fight together. The coherency range of units is now a ½ inch, and models must remain within at least one other model in their unit. Unless they have 7 or more, then they have to be within range of 2. So we're carrying over the 6 or less, it's 1, 7 or more, 2. It's fine. But very big models have larger coherency ranges, which is set on their war scrolls, just like they are now. So that's fine. No issue.
Yeah.
And coherency is measured horizontally, which means height differences don't matter. Sure. Okay. Great. Cool. Excellent. ½ inch coherency, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I mean, there's obviously still a fair amount of potential for units to take up a massive footprint, as far as screening or been playing with simply 20 zombies, right? And
Yep.
often 20 zombies are my outer layer of the multi-layer castle protecting you from a double, and so that your juicy bits are not getting killed on the double. Yeah, I'm totally here for it. I think it'll help continue the trend that we've been on of this game looking more like a proper, quote unquote, proper war game. With it'll look more aesthetically pleasing. I think it'll have a lot of nice benefits. This change. What do you think? Think we're continuing to go in the right direction?
Light cav. I think the same. Like that. I think, as always, when I'm looking for my chaff units, I'm going to be hunting around the same place I often was, which was light cav.
Light cav, yeah.
Where I can sort of, get a nice spread on 5 bases or 6 bases or something like that, depending on how the unit's built. And that ½ inch in between is not that crippling to it, right? So that light cav chaff.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you think. Arguably, that one has always stood out in my mind as a little weird, right? You see your
they're like lined up, like they're in parade, sort of. They're like the rest of the army's being like hi as they march by. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but
don't worry, Eric and Haiti, or who else asked? Yeah, I won't. We're gonna talk about it. Yeah, I mean, like. I like the change in coherency. It's fine. It sort of forces tighter grouping. Brendan has already told me he's determined to break this in whatever way he can, because he always is determined to break coherency.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I'm okay with it. Yeah, I agree, Bruno. It's like not completely ahistorical. It's just the positioning on the field is weird. Certainly, light cav screens were very popular. That kind of like horse archer run up fire and retreat type of thing to draw out the fighters is a very common thing. It's just the weird dressage of like the horse dancing around sideways in front of the line that's unusual, but yeah.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I'm really interesting to
It'll
see.
shrink units down in their board presence, which is good because we know objectives are smaller too. So like it just means there's actually a lot more available play space that'll be there, right? Like if the objectives are taking up less space and your units are taking up less space, then there's actually a lot more play space where you're moving around. Board control becomes a more difficult game to run. And so it becomes like your ability to sort of dominate the play space becomes much more difficult, much more skill testing, so on.
Yeah, it seems like man. There's a number of I suspect subtle benefits that will result from this. Like having spent so much time trying to optimize 1-inch coherency with multiple units. I mean, direwolves, for example, right? Like direwolves are phenomenal in Soul Blight right now with 6-inch activation and pile-in. They have a 22-inch threat range, 10-inch move, 6-inch auto run, 6-inch pile-in, and so you're really trying to optimize their spreads, and you can do crazy nonsense with them right now. And this would reduce that, and many other examples. So yeah, here for it.
Agreed. Okay, retreating. Battle shock has gone because to fight in the Age of Sigmar is to fight for the fate of the mortal realms. Armies engage in battle with utter conviction and battle to the bitter end. But retreat is now an ability used in the movement phase, a tactical decision that comes at the cost of D3 mortal damage, though some wily units may be able to use special abilities to slip out of combat without reprisal, including certain Skaven. Good to hear it. So... Retreat, declare, pick a friendly unit that is in combat to use this ability, effect, inflict D3 mortal damage on that unit. That unit can move a distance up to its move characteristic. That unit can move through the combat ranges of any enemy units, but cannot end that move within an enemy unit's combat range. Core move, retreat. Great stuff. Like,
Mm.
cool. I love the sort of we snuck in opportunity attacks.
Yeah.
That's great. That's fine. I don't mind the D3 mortal damage and the fact that, sort of Skaven get around it. Um, I love more that with the thing we already knew, that Battle Shock is gone. I always hated Battle Shock. It generally never did anything unless it did everything, and it was stupid. So
Right.
let's go for it. Let's go. Hades, why is this the worst thing in this article? Let Cast says I hate this change as well. Unpack that for me, folks, because I don't. It's
So-
retreating, but you take a little bit of damage on the way out now. Okay.
I would think one thought would be 5 wound heroes, 6
Oh,
wound
sure.
heroes.
Yeah, it's much harder to retreat your heroes out of combat. Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, they're going to get cut down by the mass they're trying to run away from, right? Like, it's entirely possible. That suddenly becomes a very different calculus. D3 mortal damage on your unit of, like, I don't know. Your unit of Ard Boys is
And
probably like,
rats,
who cares?
Yeah.
Right. Or Chaos Warriors or something.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, D3 mortal damage on your 5 wound hero is like, well, it could be a potentially big deal. Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Yeah. I suspect it'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, if I have 5 wound hero that barely survived, he's now guaranteed dead. Okay, yeah, sure, I get it. Yeah, that's fair, Cast. I get that point. Like, if the concern is around the heroes that are barely there and suddenly lose the ability to retreat, that is rough, right? I think that is a real cost we have to have here. I'm not sure I super hate that, is my honest answer. But because I kind of hate heroes constantly bouncing out of combat all the time. But I'm willing to bet that, like, units and heroes that are meant to be sneaky and get out of combat, like Skaven heroes or Nighthaunt heroes or stuff like that, probably have, or Goblin heroes even, right? Probably have things that just, like, allow them to sidestep this, I'm willing to bet. So. Okay.
Yeah. It's also possible that the baseline of wound characteristic has gone up on a number of small heroes, not necessarily all small heroes, but maybe, I don't know, who knows? It's hard to say. But that's the obvious
It could
one,
be that they
right?
all move to like 6 wounds or something like that, right? Which would make actually a material difference in a lot of cases for an ability like this. So
Yeah.
perhaps. Okay.
But yeah,
Now-
that's the obvious concern. We'll see how meaningful it is, but I don't think it's going to be the end of the world.
Yeah, I think it is the one, like, all rules changes are certainly a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
But especially if you get charged and want to pull a unit out, this just makes ranged units so much worse as well. It's just an annoying change. Okay. I mean, I don't know about making ranged units worse. Like, you're going to want to retreat them. They take some damage on the way out. I like the idea of getting a little bit of smack on the bottom as you sort of retreat out of combat.
I do as well. Yeah.
Like,
I
I
mean,
think that there's,
yeah.
like, you can still retreat them. I like that there is a small cost there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, what's going to change about shooting is a thing that I purposely skipped over, but I'm going to go back up to now. Okay. Where's the actual text? I gotta find it here.
No. Yeah, if it was in
It's
this
in here.
article. Oh.
Here we go. Boom. Okay. I'd kind of read over this quickly before because I knew it was in here, but I wanted to save it for the discussion at the end. Okay. Coupled with all-out attack and all-out defense, the combat phase remains a tense and strategic affair. Units cannot make shooting attacks if they are in combat unless their weapons have the shoot in combat ability. So tagging a missile unit is a great opportunity for counterplay. Oh boy, that's a big change. End of an era here. End of an era. The just free shooting it, right? If you remember in AoS 1, right, you could just shoot anywhere. You got charged. You could just ignore the people you're fighting with. You could just shoot any old person you want, right? Anywhere on the board. Then we eventually restricted that, and we said, no, you can only shoot the people you're in combat with. And now, no shooty at all unless you have shoot in combat. Which I assume will be like people with pistol-type weapons and, flamethrower-type weapons and stuff like that. So, okay. So, Tyler, this is a big change, right? What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I had the feeling of remember seeing a lot of complaints over the years, particularly AoS 1, about that reality of how you could just shoot anywhere, anytime. It was one of the predominant complaints I would constantly hear about. Would continue to hear a lot of those complaints in AoS Second Edition. It's less prominent in my mind with regard to third, but yeah, man, I there's probably something to be said about making a war game feel more like how people think it should feel, right? In terms of shooting, where if a unit is in combat, they should not be able to shoot out of combat, right? That's been one of the things we've heard constantly over the years from a lot of folks. So, yeah, I'm generally aligned with that. I think it can open up some interesting play. Well, shooting is not a huge part of this game right now, in my
Sure.
mind,
Sure.
right? Like we are very far away from the heyday of Clown Car or early COVID, when we were in the power projection era on TTS. And yeah, that's not where we're generally at right now. We've got some examples of it, so interesting to see what the recipe looks like, in the end with all this. But yeah, I'm okay with it. Seems reasonable.
It'll really be a question of who gets shoot in combat, right? So who's still firing, like
Yeah,
what units, what types of things. This is truly the most double-edged sword of this article. That's why I kind of saved it for last, because I thought it was
yeah,
like, this is a big change. It's a huge change.
yeah, yeah,
And to me, you have to look at this and go, what's the good, what's the bad? Well, the good is it certainly does open up more counterplay, especially like, again, it gives a very defined role for sort of fast cav, light cav, stuff like that, right? Where they can race around the edges. This was like classic Warhammer Fantasy Battles stuff, right? You go back and you
yeah.
tag the war machines. They stop firing,
Right,
silence the guns. Okay.
right.
And like, assumingly, those kinds of war machines won't shoot in combat for the most part, right? Because, for obvious reasons. The crew isn't there to fire them. They're busy fighting with somebody who's trying to murder them, right? But like, so the good part here is the counterplay it allows, right? And the fact that
Yeah,
you can actually answer a shooting unit and shut off your like, a lot of times shooting has been a very powerful option in this game and has often been sort of the answer. Whether or not that then translates, though, like, or how it translates is going to become the question. Because what I
mm,
mean by that is like, who gets shoot in combat, who doesn't, matters a lot, right?
sure.
And the
Right.
downside here is, are the shooty units properly compensated? Like,
Yeah,
so they got a cool buff in the off-turn shoot command ability,
right.
right? Everybody was all like, "Oh my God, shooting is going to take over the game again." There's this, you're doubling the output of shooting units, and then they drop this on us, and all of a sudden it's like, "Oh no, but shooting units are crap now." Well, like, there's some give and take here, right?
Sure.
So you can potentially get additional off-turn shooting out, but how you position your shooting units and how easy it is to get them locked in combat, and how clever your opponent is to be able to tag them in, makes a lot of difference, right? A lot of difference. So, you know, I think this is one we'll need to see the full picture on, but this is a
Yeah,
big change with a lot of potential positive and a lot of potential negative.
right. Right.
Because it definitely will allow for a lot of interesting situations and counterplay and tactics, but it could also mean that one of your units, just because you slightly positioned it wrong, is basically worthless for the whole game,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, we will have to see. I just as you're talking, I'm just trying to think about again where we're at in the game today, and I mean, there's multiple variables. So Lumineth Sentinels have not been that relevant for quite a while because arguably they've been overpriced. Actually, they hit a point of being overpriced, overcosted. Maybe there's some other things that have been going on within Lumineth or that have impacted the recipe there. But just in general, like if you think about this game, right, the current state, KO has been the clear exception. KO
Sure.
has continued to, well, KO has elements that allow them to have quite extraordinary freedom with regard to their power projection and how they apply their shooting, as generally they should if they're going to exist in the game as
Yep.
the shooting faction. The Stormcast hasn't had a tremendous amount. I mean, there's been a little. So just you kind of go through it, and yeah, we haven't really. So, how does that relate to all of this? Or like I'm thinking about the Ideneth 3x10 Reavers that I played. You know, like how would that game have been different if I could have tagged in that game 5? You know, that's a lot of shooting. Like that's
Yeah,
60
sure.
shots. Amazing shooting. Yeah, it had a huge impact on that game. That certainly would have made that game more straight, not more. It would have helped to be able to have the ability to counterplay that more than the degree that I did, which was limited. I didn't have many means of being able to address, yeah, that amount of shooting. Just had to soak it up. So, yeah, man, I don't know. We'll have to see, as you said. It's kind of hard to try to game theory this out without seeing everything.
Right. To me, it's such a massive sea change that like
Yeah.
actually thinking through, especially since we don't know what has shoot in combat still, right? Like, is that a common ability? Is it a very rare ability?
Yeah, and then
Is it just on like throwing axes and pistols, or like people who have like flame style weapons? Can they do it? Because like some of that stuff sort of exists, right?
mm,
Yeah, like some units in Skaven have like warp fire thrower type stuff, right? Like rat ogres
right.
have warp fire thrower type of things. So like uh like how much gets it, what actually gets
Mm,
this. Do the Rue Riders in Lumineth still have it, right? Because they were meant to be shoot in combat guys, right? Like these like
yeah,
short range, they turned the bow sideways was the sort of the thing. They got a kill shot,
right.
right? So exactly how it all plays out, we still just don't have enough of the puzzle, but
Yeah,
I
we
will
don't even
say
know
this is
like
going to make a big change.
yeah. The other thing that we don't even know, of course, are they changing the baseline of ranges in the game, right?
Well, they
Like,
said they're
are
reducing range
oh, did
across the
they?
board. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I forgot about that. All right. Well, that seeming
Now, what does that
seemingly
mean?
would,
Like
yeah,
2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches on average? Okay, probably not that huge a
right.
change, right? If they mean it's rare for anybody to be beyond 16 inches or something, like maybe short range things don't
Yeah.
get shorter. It's not sort of across the board. Maybe it's like, well, we tended to cap most everything at 16 inches, unless it's sort of a
Mm,
long range sniper weapon like a Giselle or the Vanguard Raptors or whatever they're where they
right.
are, the long
Yeah.
strikes. Sorry.
Box yeah.
Unless it's clearly like a dude with an artillery sniper rifle type of thing,
Sure.
then those can still be longer range. Like if
Yeah.
if Sentinels roll in and their range is basically locked at like 18 inches and that's it. That's a very different
Mm,
thing, right?
yeah.
So, who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see.
Yep. Um so like if it turns out that like, oh, it's not that we compressed things, right? So like more things group around the like 12 to 18-inch shooting range, then that means you're still often needing to get close ish to fight. Like if you got to be within 18 inches to shoot, that's very different than being within 12, and it's very different than being within 24. Even though they're like that's the 6 inches on either side of that is actually a huge functional difference in the game, right?
Right. Right. Yeah, man. I do wonder if this might be one where there could be a disconnect in what they thought reality was at the time of working on this
Sure.
in relation to shooting and what reality ended up being. Yeah,
Yeah,
you know what I mean by that?
I do very much. Yeah,
Yeah.
shooting where the target is versus where it's going to be.
Where it's going to be, yeah. This one stands out as having real potential, appropriately enough, given that it's shooting. We'll see. But yeah, we're in a pretty different world at the moment in relation to shooting than where we have been historically at times. Not to say shooting doesn't have relevance again. Obviously, it at times does, but anyhow.
Yep. So at any rate, big fat TBD on this last one,
Yeah.
right? Like what does this actually mean? Well, shooting is always powerful, right? We know that because you can do damage at range. That's an advantageous thing. That's why in the modern world we fight mostly with guns and not with swords anymore, because it turns out being able to kill your opponent from some distance away and minimizing your own risk is strong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's self-evident. Shooting has always been strong, but at the same and now you can shoot more with at least one unit than you could have previously, through the new command ability if you've got the command points to get at that. But at the same time, you also risk a lot with your shooting units of having them tied up and then basically becoming quite worthless. So, you know, 6 of one, half a dozen of another. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
It's going to take more information. But overall, I remain very excited. Most everything in this article, I really, really liked. It was really clean. The new sequencing on the abilities looks great. Pylon's great. I like the new scrolls a lot. A lot. These new scrolls get me... Honestly, these new scrolls, Tyler, got me the most jazzed. Because it really is like the thing I've been asking for. Is this clear delineation in role. Like, forever.
Right.
This is what I've wanted. So, thank you. Thank you. I want to see more. Like, keep sharing scrolls with us. I want to see some Cav and stuff like that and how they look and so on and so forth. I want to start bringing this picture together.
It's very nice to see scrolls with one main ability. Like, relative to, just the bloats and I mean, I get people having concerns about, oh, you're taking away depth and nuance and yada 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 yada. I don't really personally have, not say, I mean, they might be right. We don't really know yet, but
Sure.
I'm not really getting that vibe personally. What we've been seeing so far, I think there's still going to be a lot of depth to all of this, even if it's a lot of war scrolls with one main ability. Hallelujah, in my opinion.
Yep, agreed. All right, so a lot of good stuff. Tyler, I thought we'd end here. I just wanted to have a few-minute conversation on a quick AoS 3 look back, right?
Sure.
Like, you played in a tournament. We've seen a lot of the new 4.0 rules. Overall, you know, and as I said, right now, my interest in playing third is just basically at 0. I'm not going to lie. Like, it is as close to 0 as you can get, okay?
Yeah.
I want the new thing. But what has been your overall experience? By the way, I agree. Note on show me faction rules. Yes, we want to see more faction rules. By the way, if you haven't hit like yet, hit like, subscribe, do all those fun things that make dings. It'll make you at least 20% cooler. What have you thought overall about third edition? Because I find myself looking at all these changes and going, yeah, this is how I want the game to work. Like we're getting there. I feel like we have a hand behind the wheel now that, like, I know this sounds funny, but actually plays the game in a real way, like, and understands the game in a deep way. And I'm not sure that's how I always felt before. But you know, where like, I'll give you an easy example, the coherency thing.
Yeah.
Okay. The coherency thing being locked to 5 models felt like, oh, you don't really play the game.
Sure.
Because if you did, you'd know how many units of 6 there are. That's just like 3 dudes by 3 dudes that you reinforce. That suddenly become completely worthless.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas obviously that change got pushed in third edition through a battle scroll, right, or whatever. But like clearly it got pushed in probably about the time that they were writing these rules or whatever, and realized that, like, yeah, let's just do this for why don't we just do this now? It's a quality of life improvement, right?
Right.
To me, it just, and I'm not meaning to be insulting to anyone. I'm sure they played the game in some way. I'm sure they, you know, like, I'm not saying that the people who were writing the rules previously didn't. I'm just saying, like, I'm not sure they had the full, one of the most important parts. Let me say it like this. The art of product management is such that you need to actually understand your users' workflows. And from that, their pain points. The most important part of developing any new product is understanding actually what your customer is doing. What do they actually do? What do they feel? What do they see? You know, if you're doing software like I do, it's what do they click? How do they move? Right? Where are their where are their catch points in the system? Stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And that requires a very deep understanding of the specific thing that user is doing, right? In the various situations that they'll be in. And I'm not sure they actually had a lot of people writing the rules before that had that deep a level of understanding or were that invested in the user journey. Okay.
When you put it
Whereas
like that, I can resonate with that. Yeah.
yeah, whereas now it feels pretty clear. Like you mentioned the damage on the unit thing, right? Like that
Right.
to me feels like something where they went, no, this is just how people play,
Yeah.
right? It feels like we're understanding the user experience in a more granular way and writing the rules to better suit that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be interested. I mean, and many other examples that come to mind. We've had some debate about the start of hero phase
Sure.
and the lack of sequencing in that regard. Dude, I've played games where there's like 8 different things that happen, 8, 10 different things that happen start of hero phase. I've got players that I'll play against who will deliberately pick their heroic action before they pick their battle tactic because their interpretation of the core rules says that they can force me to pick my heroic action before they've even picked their battle tactic.
Right.
And that I got on Twitter like 6 months ago, and there was no clear consensus in the community at that time about how to play that. So,
Right.
yeah. Anyway, like, the way you put it, that point is reasonably well taken.
Yeah.
You know,
So looking back on 3.0, how do you view this edition? And I thought,
mm,
Bronny said something here I really like. The edition trajectory feels very natural. First was the Wild West. Second, they codified and wrote an actual real game. Third, they wanted to flesh it out. And fourth, they're happy with it, but they want it cleaner and tighter and have basically rewritten the, sort of to actually make it a simpler, easier on ramp experience.
mm-hmm.
Okay. So looking back on third, was this edition a success or not? How do you rate it overall?
Yeah, it feels like a 60-40.
Okay.
I think it felt stronger, 60-40 success, 60 success. I think it felt stronger initially, which will often happen. You know, we spend a lot of time doing this. There's inherent potential for more positive bias around these things. That's probably more true for me than for you. You have more of an expert eye on this than I do. The But it became apparent over time as we talked to death on this show that third edition had some fundamental issues, some fundamental rate
Mm-hmm.
limiters.
Mm-hmm.
And the word complexity we've bandied about for over a year, 2 years now in regard to third edition. I've seen so many players who have fallen off due to that issue writ
Yep.
large.
Sure.
How the game, yeah, just the game became too overwhelming, too much. It's just too much for a lot of people. And that's related to the systemic problem that it had with not having a great on ramp for new players. I've told you
Yep.
about trying to teach this game to new players and how much of it we know. You make it up and all right, I want to take away 70%. I'm going to put all this crap off the table and we're going to get down to the bare bones. But that's us doing that. That's not them providing the guidelines to do that. So yeah, 60-40 is about where I'm at. I've enjoyed a lot of it. The issues became more apparent as often happens. Battle tactics was a big one in the experience of that over time. But yeah, what about you?
I think I'd probably use the same ratio but inverted.
Okay.
Um, when I look back on third edition, all the things I liked were basically what I would just say are AoS and have always been AoS.
Yeah.
Okay. When I look at like what did third 3.0 specifically, right? Not the game of AoS, which has
Mm,
had a very solid fundamental core that I really like since the beginning. Okay?
mm-hmm.
Like the way you fight and the way you move and the basic functions of the game have really been very similar throughout all of AoS. Yeah. And I think that when I look at all that stuff, I like it because I like AoS.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think about what 3.0 itself brought to the table, I see it as a lot more failures than W's.
Mm,
we had seasonal GHBs, which were full of pain. Okay. We're still in one right now for a lot of people. Like, the number of people who really hate Blizzard is not small.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or like, I think the only reason Hoarfrost doesn't catch the hate is because Blizzard is there holding the door on the hatred, right? Like, it catches everything. There's not enough hate left over for Hoarfrost, right?
It was interesting playing against the Ancient, right? When they already had game 4, they already have the 18-inch kill box, and now you add on top Blizzard
Sure.
to that, and it's like, okay, cool. Well, I just can't do anything with Forge Dry in terms
Yeah.
of combat this game in some ways. So yeah, just
The complexity got way higher. The battle tactics were infinitely frustrating. As I said, the seasons were more or less bad. We did finally get better battle plans, which I'm here for, especially toward in the last one, which is good. That's really good.
Yeah.
I don't want to understate that. I was generally impressed by the upward trajectory in battle plan design. A lot of the stuff that was added in there was simply a failure because it wasn't thought through enough. Like, it was added in 3.0. Heroic actions were wonky, hard for people to remember. Like, what dice does what are my options? Okay. People forgot monstrous rampages all the time because they were bad in timing. They had no catch point to actually trigger their memory. The universal enhancements had to be changed all over the place because they were so wildly imbalanced. Okay. Like, when's the last time Tyler, let's do a test. What are the universal prayers? What are the universal prayers?
Heal, curse.
Nope. Yeah, keep going.
Those are not universal prayers.
Keep going.
Heal, curse. Well, there's smite, which I don't think I've ever used smite. Oh, gosh. What else we got?
Okay. So you're close. Okay.
Yeah.
Curse is one you have to take. Okay. You're like, you have, but that's my point, right? Bless.
Right. Bless. Not heal.
All this kind of stuff.
Bless.
Like, exactly. Bless to get the 6-up ward.
That's
Smite.
what I meant by that,
right? Bless and Smite are your two universals. Curse and stuff are like the things you have to take. Like, you can take Curse, but it's not one of the universal ones you know automatically, right? Yes, exactly. The universal prayer lore is guidance, heal, and curse. Yes, exactly. Okay, but that's the
guidance
that you select.
Yeah.
But that's my point. Could you tell me what those numbers are? Like,
no.
What's the answer value on those?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is my point. Right? That's it right there. At this point, we're 2 years and 10 months into the edition. If you were ever going to know them, it should have been known, right?
Sure.
But that's just it. They were so wildly off balance, but because they wrote them into the core rules, they were just screwed. And it's like, it wasn't worth fixing. Mystic Shield and goofy Arcane Bolt changing from just being like pop a dude to now you got to float a magic ball around you and then walk up and release it, and just like stupid crap. Right? Everything as Arcane Tome bounced around. Do I even need to get into the core battalions and how wildly off kilter those were?
That was rough. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we generally quickly ended up. It felt like even more playing the one-drop game than ever. Certainly not much different than historical AOS and playing the low-drop game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we've been at a very high percentage of 1-2 drops. I've played 4 drops and it's felt like 13 for quite a while now. I'm just about every game I'm out dropped.
Yeah, you're either 1 or you're 13. Those are your two choices right now.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, the second you break 1, just go all the way. Like, screw it. Just take Warlord and Command Entourage and every other dumb thing, right? Just pile them on. Wizard Finders of Antidor or whatever. Who cares? And like, that's 3.0, man. That's actually what 3.0 added to the game. Right? That stuff. Like, yes, there was some rules cleanup, okay? Jumping from second to third. Certainly, okay? We moved the command abilities from being only emanating from heroes to, emanating from totems and unit champions and stuff like that, right? Certainly a quality of life improvement to some degree or another. But like, so I don't want to say it's nothing positive. That's why I said mine would be 40 positive, 60 negative.
Yeah.
Most of the monstrous rampages were just bad. They're just bad. Bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You roared, and then you wondered what else you did with your monsters. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You stomped on somebody because it was just a thing you could do.
Sure.
And then if you weren't fighting another monster or weren't near a building for no reason, that was the end of that list. Right? Heroic actions were a lot of the same. I was like, okay, it was always funny to me when people remembered they could like add an unbind. Right? Because that was like
sure.
most people would just default to the command point, and sometimes they'd remember, hold on, I can add an unbind to this other guy when I'm outcast, right? So everything was just like wildly off kilter and written into the core rules, and it just wasn't good. And it acted like an anchor, a drag. It was a parachute hanging out the back of your car, right? Just being drag on the whole edition, and it didn't get helped any by the fact that out of the 4 GHBs we had, like I submit 3 of them were like generally pretty bad. Okay. I certainly wouldn't call them good.
They definitely seemingly missed the intended target consistently.
And so, like I've had a lot of fun in 3.0. Don't get me wrong. Like I've played a lot of good games. I've been to a lot of good tournaments. I've had good results and stuff like that, right? And played a lot of different armies. Yeah, Nodon says, and then there's the terrain rules. I mean, yeah, let's not even get started, right?
Boy, that's the ultimate acid test. Terrain rules and verticality.
Where is the article on terrain rules? I want to see that. Where's that? Because they've promised that that's happening in this edition, that we're finally getting real terrain rules. So like rules, please. Yeah.
If you're still allowed to hang Bellicor off of a foot tower, a tower a foot up in the air, we've got a problem. And he can count as you can count as potentially getting in combat range of him while he's a foot up off the air, and he's off to the side of the table because he can't actually stand.
Yep. Yeah. So I have to wonder, like, that's why I say I think overall 3.0, I would rate what 3.0 brought to the table as a failure. Again, not a terrible failure. It's not as though I didn't have fun. I had lots of fun. I played tons of games. I was happy to play most of those games. But there was just always a big drag. I was always carrying a bag of bricks around, right, when I didn't need them. And frankly, most everything I've seen with 4.0 has just been pulling bricks out of that bag and tossing them. Just tossing them.
Yeah.
That's why I'm really excited, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think if anything, that's going to be the litmus test. The one thing that still has me really scared, is battle tactics, because we haven't seen what that looks like. We know it's around still, but we don't know what it looks like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's been very interesting playing Soul Blight, whereas, they score battle tactics incredibly well. Just real quick, this might be useful. Or maybe not. The army that I've been playing, we've had for a long while a clear way to do well with Soul Blight, which is that you go hard on primary scoring and, by extension, primary denying. Right? You play the sitting on circles game really well. I've chosen to play lists that are not going as hard into that as they can, which then has had more challenges. Soul Blight, thankfully, does not do incredibly well on DPS checking. They're not a high damage army, right? Which, like, people would come by my games over the weekend and they would wonder what the hell has happened when there's most of the models left on the table and we're in round 5. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
and so I found that interesting. But all that's just, I'm not, like, it would lead to a lot of games where, like I got 25 out of 25 battle tactics over the weekend, didn't drop one, but 4 out of 5 games were as close as they get. I mentioned the Achilles heel of the grand strategy. So a way of saying that I've still, been able to find enjoyment and variety in pathways to victory within the confines of 3.0 competitive play. I think you can, right? I have found there to be a good amount of diversity that's viable within that. But with that said, yeah, the battle tactics have had a big impact in shaping the whole environment. Like that's undeniable. So anyway, I'm not entirely sure if I made a coherent point there, but
No, I
yeah,
gotcha. You played Poison Mushroom. Okay.
that sounds like a magic reference.
It is not.
Okay.
So when Mario came out for the Nintendo,
Oh,
yeah,
poison mushroom. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
the reality is, if you know, it was kind of the only game that a lot of us had. Like, Buddy had a Nintendo, but like, we didn't have a lot of games when Nintendo first came out. There wasn't a lot of games released, and you know, it wasn't
Yeah.
like your parents were going to give you money to go buy more video games. The whole idea of having video games in the house was still probably new for a lot of people, unless you happen to have an Atari or something, right? Before
Right.
that, and so. You know, like you just had Mario, so you just played Mario over and over again. Super Mario Brothers, right? The first one.
Hmm.
And you would play it so much, and you'd get to know the game, and you'd know every position of every sort of monster in a lot of the game, right? Because you would just keep
Right.
running the same levels over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so you would add additional challenges to yourself, and so we would play a version of the game called Poison Mushroom. Poison Mushroom is when all the mushrooms were poisonous, so you could never make yourself big. Right, you had to run the game small as tiny Mario. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning you one hit kill, right?
Right.
And so like that's your equivalent of what you were doing there. Right? You were like, well, this normal thing I'm kind of done with. So I'm going to challenge myself with these extra layer of rules that I don't really have to submit to, but I will, right? I'll self-impose them on me.
Sure.
So I get it.
Which is common, especially for Johnny types.
Sure, of course. But overall, I think you can only play, but you know, things like Poison Mushroom will only keep you interested for so long because eventually you'll just, it's the speedrunner's dilemma. Eventually you'll just beat that too. You'll just, you know, you'll keep chasing the dragon, right?
Right.
In the end, what's actually going to make it interesting, valuable, whatever, is when you can, is when you actually have real and varied experiences every time you rock up. That's what'll actually keep it interesting. And I'm hoping that what I'm seeing here is going to make that be the case. Because if every new game is really a challenge that you're unlocking as you play the game, where you're trying to like get the right fights, have the right combats, do the right things, you know. We haven't seen battle plans, but obviously that could factor into this heavily and it'd be a huge part of it. Then I think you've got that's the recipe for actually holding interest. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and when I say that resonates. When I say the 60/40, I guess if we narrow it down appropriately to the 3.0 core rules and sort of framework itself, right? Then I'm more closely aligned with where you are. If I was thinking more about a broader scope of 3.0, right, which when I think about all of the positive steps forward they've taken with external balance. Generally,
Yeah.
the balance side, we talked a lot about how we've had significant disappointments at many of the 3.0 battle tomes when they came out,
Yep.
but which then got better and better and better, but it took a lot of work and external work after the fact to address them. And we finally got to about the best place that we've ever been in as far
Sure.
as
Yeah, we had
the
like a
win rate.
year of bad battle tomes in 3.0. Like I didn't even mention that, but that's very much worth mentioning, right? Of just like one
Yeah.
after the next where it was just rough.
Yes. Yep. So yeah, there's the good and bad, the ugly there, but where things stand now, yeah, rocking up to the table, I still experience meaningful variety of situations. Games are still often meaningfully different, even though they're working within a system that clearly has some limitations, and we're seeing a lot of steps forward, a lot of meaningful improvements with fourth edition here. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with third edition, but increasingly became aware of some of the challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Cygnus Maximus says bad whole tomes. BAD.
Sure.
Quality punning. Yeah. All right, good. I just wanted to do a little check back in, a little look back there as all of this has gotten me thinking deeply about the experience of 3.0, as we're ramping up here. It's made me look back a lot and think about kind of the experiences and stuff like that. So
Yeah, on that event, I mean, this may not be the time to do it, but it'd be interesting to kind of reflect. Maybe with Tom, we get on, we can talk about it. Kind of some of the things that are still coming out of events, like that's kind of a broader scope or broader lens than just 3.0, right? Like chess clocks, still sometimes pace of play issues that players will have.
Sure.
Uh, Terrain is definitely still a thing. Like the guys in Kentucky doing their first event, they were using the defensible, impassable Wildwood system.
Yep.
There were some issues, which I'm going to relate to them, that I felt in terms of how that was handled or not handled. But it's their first time out of the gate. There's still some lack of standardization, universality to some degree, right, within a GT setting. We still don't have a lot of clarity. Like the studio has never answered how we should be handling end of game sequence. So yeah,
Yeah,
an
sure.
end of game discussion, right?
Yep.
Are you and I? Do you happen to love to talk it out? Do your opponent hates talking it out? Like, what are we doing, right? You
Yep.
look at 6 packs, and they might all be a little bit different. So there's still a fair number of those kinds of issues within, I guess, especially tournament settings that could use a little more universally, could use to be universally defined better, in my opinion.
Yep. Agreed. Uh, I do agree, Cygnus. I do. Yeah. I agree. I completely agree. Cygnus said, I came into AOS at the start of second after a salty sit out of first, and I loved the creativity where armies were from and fought in various different realms. You could mix and match things more. Yeah, I mean, I do, like, it's better for the game overall in balance. Like, when I think about the trade-off for balance and stuff like that, things like realm artifacts and goofy stuff like that, I do, there are things like that I do miss. I'd love to see some silly things like that come back into a play mode. Maybe it's not for, like, the tournament match play, but I'd love to see stuff like that be available in some mode of the game. I think that creativity is really important, and frankly, like, let's have something that speaks to that would be my ask. So, yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Let's call it a night, buddy. I think this is good.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
For all of you out there, hey, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't hit like yet, why don't you hit like? Subscribe, do all those things. If you want to support the show, there's lots of ways you can do so. There's links down below, affiliate links. If you're going to buy some stuff for your hobby, you can click those links, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. In fact, in many cases, it might save you money, but it gives the channel a little kickback. There's a merch store down there if you want to wear Tyler's little sprite on your chest, or if you want my wife and the dogs, if the chaos hounds there that came and visited at the start of the show, you can pick that up. We had one designed for her. I think I want to get one done for Larry the Ogre, Tyler. I think he deserves one. He's been as much of a mascot as anything else on the channel.
Nice, yeah. I ran into Brandon Harvey. He rocks. He was not wearing it, but apparently in the past he's rocked Tom's Team Tom. He plays Nurgle. He loves Nurgle. I pointed out to him that, when's the last time you actually saw Tall Lions play Nurgle? I played it for like 18 months. Maybe did well with it at some point. And he said, well, talk to Vince. It's a branding problem. He's like,
Absolutely.
you got the wrong.
Decisions were made. Yeah. Sadly not, Hades. I wish they did. At any rate, thank you, everybody. Also, of course, there's our Patreon. You can hit that up, and that focuses on taking your next step on your hobby journey. Maybe you suddenly found out, like Tyler, that you have to paint a whole army by November and do it yourself. And if you're in that situation, well, we'd be happy to help. Otherwise, I just want to say thank you so much. I really do appreciate you watching. Share the show, spread it around, all those kinds of things. Comment, throw down below your thoughts on whether third was good or bad in the long run. How does it shake out? And what you're excited about for fourth. Did we miss anything on the elements of the upcoming stuff to discuss? But thank you so much for watching. As always, we'll see you next Wednesday.